Hey everybody, we are back, and I'm going to do my intro again because this is going to be a separate YouTube on the VOD end. Hey, welcome to another episode of the JFU podcast. Normally we do this as one consecutive, and we actually started out with the plan, but during the intermission we talked about it, and we're going to test something here. We might not do it going forward, but we're going to try and make it two separate podcasts. So one that's the best and worst games of the year, and another that's the best and worst movies of the year. So if there are people who just want to know our thoughts on the movies, they don't have to sit through what was about an hour and a half of
or trying to find where the movies start.
Or try and find where the movies start, so they can just get what they want. See if that changes views or anything else analytically, but yeah. So what we're going to be doing here is we have a conversation about the worst movies of 2019. Then we have the Wishlist Movies of 2019, which are the movies we wanted to see but didn't get around to. And then we have Best, which will be a top 10 movies of 2019, and then our anticipated list of 2020. Those are the movies that we just are excited to see and hope are good. Yeah. So, guys, got any housekeeping stuff?
Not really.
No.
I think that's pretty...
I will say, just a reminder that we will see your chats, but we most likely will not respond to them, just because we're engaged in conversation with one another.
And this is a long enough event.
We do see your chats. We appreciate you being here, and no disrespect.
Yeah, and with Keithia Jones, on that note, sup, welcome back. Glad to have you here. But yeah, and then another thing that I'll mention.
We'll probably take some time towards the end of the podcast and maybe address everything that was mentioned in chat.
Yeah.
But
something I'll mention is, which I think is pretty obvious just because we've done this all the time, but in case you're maybe new or forgotten, I feel especially with this year, our lists are going to be fairly different. So there's going to be more conversation, I think, than in the games year's list of why we place things where they were.
Yeah.
So in that note, there will most likely be spoilers.
Yes.
So if we start talking about a film that you really want to see without spoilers, then please, skip it. Just mute or do something so you don't hear about it.
Wherever you are, like if you're watching it live
or on the VOD or whatever. Just a heads up and a reminder. So.
All right. But on that note, are we ready to get on to the worst movies of 2019?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So my list is actually interesting because not all the movies are like god awful and unwatchable. The 5 and 4 are movies that really were disappointing because they could have been great, but really missed the mark in my opinion. 3 and 2 know exactly what they are, but what they are still isn't great. So that's why they're on that list. The number 1 is fucking dog shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
But on that note, let's just start with Luke and then we'll go around. Luke, what is your number 5?
My number 5 is Black Christmas. I actually only saw it pretty recently. Just to give some background though, like the original Black Christmas, not this one because this is a remake. It's actually a really great kind of slasher film and was actually one of the few films that kind of started up the genre in a weird way. And this is essentially just another kind of Blumhouse sort of horror film slasher-esque kind of thing, which is like, whatever, I could just be like, yeah, it's just boring, not really all that interesting. There's definitely some choices for the story that I can say are like, you could have had the safety of just being another boring Blumhouse film, but then you had to like try to go the extra mile, and by going the extra mile you like slip and fall on your face and break every single bone in your body. Congratulations. You didn't have to go there. No one wanted you to go there, but you did, and no one liked it. Congratulations for that. Fucking amazing. Trying to think like any positives I can think about. Like there's some performances I do like. Most of the performances are bad. Like they're very like TV movie quality, like level, like Hallmark level acting. And script is really bad. Nothing about it like visually is all that interesting. It's like it's funny because the film from like the 1970s, in terms of like as a horror film, but also like the messages it tries to get across are actually much more interesting and well developed than the film that came out like weeks ago. So congratulations, you fucking idiots. I hope you're proud of yourself.
Man, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm sad that Blumhouse has really put out some not so great stuff.
Yeah. They're like a mixed bag. It's almost like they don't have any. They don't really seem to have a semblance of not like quality control, but they just kind of let whatever is given to them in.
Oh, you want to make a film? Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Because like then we get stuff like Get Out, which is amazing, but then we also have like this and just so many other films that are just like blech. So it's kind of a mixed bag, and that's how we get films like this.
Yeah,
not great.
When Get Out came out, I was like, oh man, we got A24. We got what's the Fox one?
Oh, for Fox Searchlight.
Fox Searchlight. We got Blumhouse. Man, these are great indie studios.
Yeah, like Annapurna and all those people.
And now, Blumhouse since has had some real, yikes films.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But yeah. So Dylan, what you got is number 5?
So at number 5, before I say it, I will like to say that there's quite a few films that I wish I would have seen just for the sole purpose of having them on my list.
I'm the same way.
But I just couldn't even bring myself to it to buy a ticket to make myself sit through a film I know I'm not going to enjoy.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So, because I feel like sometimes all of these films deserve to be on my words list in their own ways, but I wish I would have been able to see some of the other films so that these would have gotten pushed down a little bit, because I know they would have gotten pushed down because of these other films I didn't see. But at number 5, I have Alita: Battle Angel.
Yeah. So
it was a watchable film. Like, I had a good time in it, but it's just nothing special. It's just kind of it's pretty flat and dull. Like, there's nothing too much exciting about it, and the action scenes are kind of and everything's just kind of about it, but it's still watchable.
That's understandable. This was one of those ones I was kind of getting to my worst list, but just barely missed it.
Phew.
But you've also seen a lot of those other films that I wish I would have been able to see for the purpose of putting them on, so you got to see those.
I'm a shameless asshole. Sorry.
So I think if I would have gotten to see some of those, this one would have probably got pushed down to somewhere in the 9, 10, or 11 range, just depending on that. But
fair enough.
That's where I'm at with number 5. Not much to say about it.
Yeah. So my number 5 is actually a bit polarizing to a lot of people because it's a film that has had a wide range in reception, everything from it's the worst thing ever to it's the best thing ever. And for me, it's just disappointing and abundantly clear that they didn't know what the fuck they were doing when they started on this endeavor. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Because I honestly think if they had a different 7 and 8, this could have been a workable and good 9. But knowing what 7 and 8 were, I don't think it does a good job at paying off what was set up in 7. I don't think it did a good job at paying off what it did in 8. And even at itself, it's rushed and pacing is messy and it takes a lot of shortcuts because they didn't set up the conclusion. And is it watchable? Absolutely. I will say this: Attack of the Clones, not watchable. This is watchable. Doesn't mean that it's great. I started out thinking you know what? It's not great, but it's not awful. It's worse. I think Solo's a good midpoint. This is definitely below Solo. But I could still enjoy myself. But some of the enjoyment that I had after I first saw it to now, it's kind of been muddled down because I reflect on 7 and 8 more, and I'm I like 7 and 8 less because of this film.
Yeah.
And the moments I like in 9 don't feel earned. And that's a shame. I think the banter between the main 3 could have worked if we got more screen time with them together.
Yeah, more of a sense of development.
Poe met Rey in the last 5 minutes of 8.
And then, now we're supposed to believe, that they've, had some sort of interaction after that. And
they had some connecting factor that we didn't get to see, and then...
Yeah, which the prequels had a lot of that as well. But by the time the Mustafar fight happened, I felt the emotion of it.
There was nothing to get you that emotion in this.
And I think Kylo Ren had a great story arc in this film, and he, I think, was probably the most developed character, but even he
kind of got the short end of the stick.
And Adam Driver can do so much better if he had great material.
Pretty much.
I think he's doing the best that he can with what he has. And what he has is better than what the other characters have. But it's still, I see that movie and I'm just filled with disappointment disappointment for what the trilogy can be.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly think some of that, sure, is my expectations. I have the expectations of the original trilogy had some great cinematic moments to it. Yeah, the prequel trilogy is not great, but it has some moments that this trilogy didn't get right.
Yeah, like they weren't developed as well.
So sure, I watched The Rise of Skywalker knowing what it could be and seeing what it's not.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess and that's why it's only number 5. If you take it for what it is, sure, you can enjoy it.
Fair enough.
It just fills me with a lot of disappointment.
Okay, so
Same.
just for some clarification, so if you look at it from a film on its own, and not, I know it's hard to, but if you looked at it from the aspect that obviously it does have connection, but if it didn't have any connection, and it was just a film on its own, would it be in your top, or in your worst list of the year?
I don't know if it would be in my worst list. I still think it's not good, though. Because, again...
Yeah, that's fair.
Pacing is a problem. It takes a lot of shortcuts.
No, and there is a lot of mistakes, but I'm just curious if part of your dislike of it comes from the fact that something that is out of 2019's control.
I get what you're saying.
But with all due respect, it's still...
I think the only way it could have been good is if 7 and 8 stuff was set up. I think even if you look at it as this was its own thing totally, it's still not great. It is rough.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that could have saved it if it had a 7 and 8 that set it up. Even like Endgame, for example, I don't think would have worked if it didn't have the 22 films that came before it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
I think Endgame works because of those 22 films. So I think The Rise of Skywalker could have worked with a better... Or not even a better...
Well, without the 22 films before, Endgame isn't Endgame.
Which I think you could have an argument. In an alternate world, Rise of Skywalker isn't Rise of Skywalker. Without a different 7 and 8.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
So, yeah, I don't think, to answer your question, if 7 and 8 didn't happen and we just got this film, I don't think it would have been great still. But I also don't think Avengers Endgame would have been great without the previous films.
Okay.
Fair enough. Let's see.
Number 4.
And another thing, before we move on to 4, that I just remembered because of that point. Also, like, it introduces new characters that get nothing. That's right.
Why introduce them?
Exactly. So, even if it were
it's like
just
you already have enough characters to work with.
Yeah.
What's the point of Daniel?
So even if we just got 9, I would still see those characters and be like, they're just wasting time. That could have gone to the other characters.
Because again, like I noted on the Star Wars podcast, I do think the film was too long.
Yeah. It was 2 films combined.
Yeah, honestly. It's weird, like, it's too long, but there's not enough stuff to happen.
It's too long, but the film still should have been split. Yeah, like, it should have been 2 different films, and then more purposeful stuff needs to be put in, and the non-purposeful stuff needs to be taken out.
Yeah, like some of those characters that don't really add anything other than just...
some of the story moments that we spend 30 minutes getting up to, and then all of a sudden it's destroyed in 1 second, and then...
Yeah, pretty much.
All that last 30 minutes is absolutely wasted, and I have to start all over again. Like,
pretty much.
But anyway, Luke, now on to your number 4.
My number 4. This is going to be kind of, I guess it could be kind of a controversial choice. It's the Lion King remake. It's like one of those things where it's like, it's the best way I could describe it. When I first watched this, it felt like the most expensive use of copy and paste. It is like it is the same movie as The Lion King, and The Lion King is a great film, like a very, very good film, but like it's almost like a purposeful removal of what made it great to begin with. Like the visuals are like, oh, they're very photorealistic, but they look like ugly as fuck. Like every single like beautiful vista you see is like this gray ass, like, kind of bland beige look to it.
Yeah.
Very impressive visual effects for, like, you know, realistic lines, but that kind of doesn't really give them the ability to emote or to have proper lip movement because they're lions and that's not how they work. Yeah. Literally fucking, like, films from the 90s with, like, talking animals had better CGI than this did in terms of, like, vocal syncing.
In terms of performance.
And in terms of performance, too. Oh, God, the performances. Because, like, the thing that I kind of noted with, like, the performances, like, the vocal performances, was, like, they still brought in James Earl Jones to recite his lines from the original film, but like the way he says it and his inflection just sounds so like bored and uninterested. It looks as bored and uninterested as like the faces do in the film, and so it's like,
which I've heard some people say may have been purposeful in terms of speculation.
But why then? Why would they choose?
Because it would be so weird if you had an animal talking very blandly, but a character's like, "Wowza, that was crazy, dude."
I would have preferred that, honestly. Because, like, yeah, like, I just looked at it, and nothing about the look and just anything they added. Like, the biggest compliment that I can give is that Donald Glover has a very good singing voice. And that's it. That's all I can say. Mm-hmm. Like, they just make it so beat for beat the exact same. It's to the point where I'm just like, why make this? Why make this in the first place? Like, at least Aladdin had some difference in it. And at least Dumbo is very, very conceptually like a different movie than the original Dumbo. Mm-hmm. This is just Lion King with like the desaturation filter, and I barely liked any of it. Honestly, it was just a thoroughly unpleasant experience.
Yeah, I would say I almost equate it to Avatar, as like in terms of filmmaking. It's like, look at what this has achieved technologically that opens the doors for a lot of other films. Film itself, whatever, but what it opens, that's cool, right?
Yeah, like, yeah.
I think that it's one of those films that can encourage other directors to see technology in a different way, but the film itself, maybe not.
The thing is, though, the Jungle Book did it better, though, in my opinion.
It's very different technology, though.
It is different technology, yes, but like there is general similarity in some areas. Because, like, I mean, for the most part, from what I understand, like, The Lion King is, like, fully CG.
Well, it's also VR. It's essentially done on a video game engine.
Okay, I get you, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All the entire film was essentially video game cutscenes.
Fair enough. I just wish that technology could have been used to propel something that actually felt purposeful in its use, rather than just like a remake.
And I'll say, it's hilarious seeing images of Jon Favreau in a chair with a VR headset and the Oculus Rift controls directing with that.
I don't think I've seen that. I should need to find that.
Oh, it's great. Because then his DP's next to him, also in a chair with the VR headset, and you say, like, move the camera over there. And the DP's like, got it? Okay. And like, make it sunset. And then you see the sunset coming.
Yeah, just like...
I love those images. And for me, it's also like a very expensive way of being... It's almost very expensive fan casting. I also see
it no, that cast was so... that cast was appeasing to so many different audiences.
Yeah. Now, I don't think the performances were anything
led
too
up
great.
To it, but just having their names attached to it.
Hearing Seth Rogen's voice reading Pumbaa lines is like, I guess that checks off a little check mark.
It's a little satisfaction. It's like, that's Seth Rogen.
Again, I don't know if that justifies the movie to your point. But it's that little, like, hearing it in the theater is like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's like,
I can understand that, yeah.
Don't know if that was worth the millions of dollars it took to make it, but that was cool.
Yeah, just those little moments of like, that was alright, cool.
Because I will say, that film definitely had one of the most expensive cast bills of the entire year.
Probably, although, I hate that, I think my least favorite song in it was Hakuna Matata. Because it was them joking. Literally the point of the song is like, it was like them looking at the audience being like, you guys have been waiting for this, here we go, sing the song that everybody knows.
I have a retort to that, and that's Be Prepared.
Be Prepared, just they took the emotion out.
Yeah,
this
that's
song,
why I hate it more personally.
For me, this song is them literally breaking the fourth wall to be like, we know this is your favorite song.
Get ready, stand up.
To where I don't think I could listen to it on a soundtrack because of all the jokes they make about how famous the song is.
Yeah, pretty much.
I could listen to Be Prepared and just be bored. Why am I not listening to the original?
Could you imagine if they were like, come on everybody, stand up. Stand up.
They might as well have.
Everybody get ready. Clap your hands.
There's literally the joke of like, fart. They meant to insinuate fart in the original song. He farts. That's the funny part of that.
Yeah.
Continue on with the song, though.
Yeah. They might as well have just been like, you know the words, everybody.
Yeah.
But nah.
Even, like, Simba in that song is the audience at, like, let's keep it going. And they're like, nah, we got a movie to do here. Kind of.
we gotta get this going. But yeah, no, that's definitely something. Also, find it really weird in some cases, like the debate on whether if it's live action or animation, because very obviously animation.
Mm-hmm.
But
what was that? Oh no, never mind. I was gonna say what was Avatar called, but it had actors in it.
Yeah, there were actors like at least on a stage at some point.
Okay, so Dylan, what you got?
So I will just preface by saying that Lion King does not make my list, but I mean I see.
Lion King's not on mine either.
I see kind of like, I see where you're coming from, and I could see how it could be viewed as a bit controversial. But at number 4, I do have Godzilla.
That's on my honorable mentions.
See, the weird thing is that it's just really awkward. And the action sequences were really disappointing for something that had a lot of potential.
Yeah.
And something that we talked about on the last podcast, which I think they do here, is that they put that blue light on the fighting sequences to make it look more epic. And it just doesn't work.
Hurts my head.
And I will say, the framing for the fights is dead awful.
It really is, honestly.
Like, when you could be, like, in a shot where you could be way closer and make it look way cooler, it's like this super wide angle shot that to me serves zero purpose.
It also it's like makes the fight really confusing to be like, wait, where are they? Who's fighting who? Oh no.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest. So originally going into the year, I was like, I'm excited for that movie. I love the 2014, I think it was, Godzilla. And then I heard the reviews for it and went, well, I don't want to watch it now because I don't want to be disappointed. Because I really like that one. I've heard great things about the Kong one. I don't want to be disappointed. So I just won't see it. Otherwise, I bet you're right. It would probably be on here with my other disappointment movies.
So, the more I think about it, like, the more I even want to switch it and move it up one more spot on my list. But, I don't know. It's just a giant cluster. And once I get to my next item on my list, I will go into it more. But I really, thinking about it more, I think I probably would switch it if I were to do this again. Because it's just, every time, even just thinking about it, just makes me so angry.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So, my number 4 is a movie that actually, when I saw it, I was kind of in the camp of like, it's not great, it's not awful though, and as time has progressed on it, the things I like are far less memorable, and I think are less impactful now that I'm not seeing it in a theater, and the things that I dislike piss me off more. And that is It Chapter 2.
Yeah.
So, I love the last It movie. But even the things that I liked about it when I first saw it, I don't think pull me anymore. And it's a movie that, as I've kind of rewatched scenes and rewatched parts of it, feels like just a waste of time.
Yeah, I could definitely feel that.
I, in my head now, see the end of the first It movie as just the end. That's where it ends. It insinuates like, oh, maybe as adults they came back, or maybe it was really dead, and I just ignore this one. Because it was stupid long for nothing interesting to happen. They made Pennywise, who was awesome in the original, do nothing, essentially.
Yeah, he just kind of fucked with them for, like, the entire film.
And even that, it didn't scare me.
Nah.
He was more scary in the first one, and the ending felt much more impactful for me, to the point where I was watching the movie, and Pennywise would do something, I was like, then at the end, they're like, nah, he can only kill us if we're scared of him, so we won't be scared of him. And I was there in the theater being like, bitch, I'm watching this movie now. I'm looking at it because I'm not going to let him win.
Yeah.
For this movie, it ends using the same trope, which I think is stupid.
Yeah, and it's also like, it kind of reminds me of like an anti-bullying PSA, the way they do it. It's like...
It's more of a bullying PSA.
Actually, like the reverse is like, if we call him, if we like, basically lower his self-esteem, he'll die.
Bully the bully and you win.
So
it'd just be like that.
You know what? I'd view it more like basically as like a cash grab, really.
Yes, because even the actors, it had a great
Pennywise,
cast on paper.
And Pennywise is basically just their marketing scheme.
Yeah,
pretty much.
That's kind of the main thing.
Like they literally all over their advertising, it's just Pennywise.
Yeah.
That's kind of key figure.
But
Yeah.
like, I don't even think McAvoy did a great job in it.
No, he really didn't.
Bill Hader is the only person who had great moments, but even him, I kind of felt like had moments of like, all right, another day of work. All right, let's get this done with.
Yeah, just like kind of trying to do like the humor bits, but like sort of they don't mesh very well with the rest of the film.
Mm-hmm. And like the moment that I remember talking about being like, I like this moment, was the moment where they're all around the table having the same chemistry the kid actors had.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only moment of it. And on its own, it's kind of then just such a waste.
Yeah.
Because then, what do they do with the kids sections of the movie? Split them up. All that chemistry, who needs it? They are never seen together again.
Also, we're just going to cut back to the kid actors because we know that's what everyone really liked about the original.
Yeah. And the whole scavenger hunt.
It's just a fucking fetch quest. It's a fetch quest for like 2 hours.
But not even an entertaining one.
No, they drag it out so long.
Mm-hmm. Only for the big conclusion of, haha, waste of time.
Pointless. It's like Rise of Skywalker.
Yep, and then for the entire last act, the blue fucking strobe.
Maybe this really is just like the horror Rise of Skywalker now. Now just thinking about it.
But like, it's a movie that as time has gone on, I dislike more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
To where if they had been like, oh man, the It movie did really good, but we're just going to do another Stephen King adaptation. Knowing what I know now, I would have gone, great, do that, please.
Yeah.
And have been spared from what happened.
Pretty much.
So I could end the It thing being
was like
that was great.
2.5 hours, right?
It was almost 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Yeah. It's a movie that felt like it.
It really did, yeah.
2 hours and 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Yep.
A 3-hour movie that I wish I had those 3 hours back.
The Irishman felt shorter.
The Irishman felt so much shorter.
Okay.
Alright, well, Luke, what you got next?
Number three, I don't know if you guys have heard of this one, but it's sort of basically kind of become a joke among the film community. It's a film called The Fanatic.
I've heard of it, yes.
With John Travolta in it.
Yeah.
The main thing that puts it on this list is probably the most painful performance of the whole year, and not like in a kind of like, oh, like it's emotionally
He's so
vigorous.
vulnerable.
Yeah, like it's not like, oh, great vulnerability. You're just like wincing in your seat, like, no, please stop.
Holy cow! I got a 17% on Rotten Tomatoes,
and it deserves it. It very much deserves it. It's like,
holy cow!
It's like an attempt at like a psychological. It's the best way I can describe it. It's like the shitty version of Joker.
Wait, did it come out in theaters?
I don't know if it did.
Because you want to know what it made in box office?
How much?
$3,000.
What?
That sounds about right.
$3,153.
That sounds about right.
Let me see what the budget was.
It probably had a budget considering had John.
They spent $23 million.
Oh my god!
It said, the Fanatic, a career low for John Travolta. The film made just $60 per theater.
What's the percentage of loss with 23 million in 3,000 revenue?
Like 22 something.
So 3,000 divided by 23 million. It's like they only made like a 1/1000th of their budget back.
Pretty much.
Holy
and
cow.
You want to know what? That it deserves that.
Obviously, it didn't have much marketing because I didn't even hear about it. But that sounds so funny.
The most marketing I got out of it was memes from other people that I followed online. That's the level of marketing there was. It's
the fact that to only make $60 per theater it ran at is kind of insane.
Pretty much, but it is essentially like the equivalent of like a really terrible equivalent of like Joker.
Now I'm really curious what you have ahead of this because this
movie
sounds
I just had the
awful.
same thought.
I'll let you know. Dark Phoenix is not on my list.
Dark Phoenix for me is at number 6.
It's
it's just below my top 5 because.
But like, yeah, like, and that's saying something too.
Like, there's a lot of stuff I didn't like about Dark Phoenix, but it's still not. It's one of the more watchable, least favorite films.
I disagree, but we'll get to
Fair
that.
enough. But like, there's
That's hilarious.
it's like it's something that's like so just thoroughly awful. Like nothing is all that interesting about like the cinematography or anything about that, but that performance alone is like an endurance test. It's like fucking like a cheese grater across your arm. It's and
other than John Travolta, the cast is literally nobody's.
Pretty much. Well, I mean, like,
which, no offense to nobody's, you got to start somewhere, but like,
yeah,
you got to at least have like, I think it's standard to have like a minimum 2 big names in every film.
Mm-hmm. Probably, yeah. Like if you want to make it like a big successful hit, and this is it's just. Like, it's hard for me to even, like, describe it. It's one of those things where, like, you'd have to just watch, like, a segment of it to get, like, the feeling of how just grating it is. And how it's trying to be, like, a psychological thriller and be very disturbing. But in actuality, it's John Travolta being a weird fuck for, like, two hours or hour and a half.
If we still had casual crappy cinema.
Maybe. It'd probably just be us being, like, for, like, 2 hours. But
that's hilarious.
That's my 3rd worst film of the year.
I need a drink after that. Okay, Dylan, what do you got to top that?
So my number 3, which ultimately would be in my number 4 now, and Godzilla would be number 3, is Dora.
Dora the Explorer. I forgot about that. Jesus Christ.
But so despite all like obviously it has a lot of negative like stuff going into it, it's still like it's a watchable film. Not gonna lie.
Fair enough.
Like, obviously it's Dora, and there's obviously those weird, awkward scenes where she talks to you. Like, I think it's even shown in the trailer, but there's the one scene where they're sitting at the dinner table, and she's like, "Are you hungry?" or something like that, and she's like straight up talking to you.
I'd walk out.
But then like her parents are like, "What are you doing, Dora?" She's like, "I'm talking to my friends."
No, she's just a freak. That's what she is.
Schizophrenia.
But like, obviously it has those moments. But like, I do give it for what Dora stands for and what Dora is. I give it a lot of credit.
I'll be honest. I now really want to see a horror version of Dora where just camera pans around as she's talking to the wall, and it's just a whole movie of her just talking to a non-existent audience in like her house. Like she doesn't go anywhere. It's just like her parents are walking by and they hear her talking in the bathroom, and they just open the door and she's staring at like the shower wall, and like another scene like Boo is holding her upside down and she's just like spinning, talking to no one.
But ultimately, like, if I had to pick between Dora and Godzilla, I would watch Dora again.
Fair enough.
And if that doesn't tell you something,
yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just like it's not a fantastic film, but it's still watchable.
I want to see my movie now, because now I just also imagine her just laying in bed, staring at the ceiling, going, "Swiper no swiping, swiper no swiping." Like I want to see that.
So I will say, she still does have a talking backpack. I'm pretty sure Swiper does make an appearance, if I remember correctly. And then Boots.
Played by Antonio Banderas, right?
Dora 2019.
Man.
Cast, Boots.
This is such a great recap of 2019. Like, I'm remembering so much now.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm glad we start with this, too, so it can only get better from here.
Pretty much.
However you pronounce that. Reagan...
Oh,
Ronald Reagan?
No. Oh, God. That would have been worse.
Miserati?
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan came back from the dead to star in Dora the Explorer.
But yeah, so... Yeah, it's just... That's all I really have to say.
Fair enough.
I would watch it over Godzilla, so Dora would technically be my number 3, and then Godzilla would be Dora would be number 4, and Godzilla would be number 3.
Ah. Gotcha.
So...
You're number 3.
My number 3. I actually know someone who worked on this film, and he was talking to a group of people, and I was just in the group, and he showed us the trailer because he was saying like, "Yeah, I worked on this film. It's rough." Like he gave us a warning as someone who worked on the film.
That's a bad.
Which is pretty embarrassing because as someone who works on the film, you're supposed to kind of be proud about it. But
yeah, although I don't think he's proud of much of his work because he also worked on the Transformer movies and loves to shit on them apparently. But anyway,
fair enough. Gotta make money somehow.
But seeing this film, my number 3 and my number 2 are films that know exactly what they are. So if you're in the crowd of people who they were targeted at, you might enjoy yourself. As films, though. Wow, what the fuck, wow. And I'm sad that Bill Hader's in 2 of my worst films of the year.
Oh, I think I know what one of them is.
It's a Disney Plus exclusive called Noelle.
Mm.
And what the film is Anna Kendrick and Bill Hader. Anna Kendrick playing probably the most annoying character of her entire career.
Oh, no.
And Bill Hader collecting a paycheck. It
seemed like it, yeah.
And like, you think based off watching The Mandalorian that, man, Disney's putting a lot of money into the CGI for their originals. This movie proves you're wrong. With reindeers that I've seen just animated movies that have more realistic looking reindeer.
Like 2D animated films.
Yes. Cool. It has moments, I'll be honest, where I'm like, oh, that's a really endearing, heartfelt moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like something...
surrounded by just mess. And literally, the twist at the end, I'm on board with the twist. I'd honestly watch a whole movie that's just what happened after the twist. But everything leading up to that moment had me go... And also the twist was the most predictable thing ever, by the way. Mm-hmm. I'll say it right now. Sorry if you haven't seen Noelle yet. Anna Kendrick becomes the first female Santa Claus at the end.
Oh, dang.
Which I'm like, oh, cool. I'd like to see a female Santa Claus, like, mini-series.
Yeah, if there was a better film surrounding
Everything leading up to that point is infuriating. Because they give you so many hints that she's a better Santa than Bill Hader's character. Every 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Like, very drive it home.
From the first 5 minutes, I was like, oh, you know what? She should be Santa Claus. And then I got pounded with another... At least it's not long. It's fairly short, the movie. Mm-hmm. I got pounded with like another hour or so. I know she should be... She's a better Santa. I know that. Just make her Santa then. Make her Santa. Make her Santa the first act. That's the inciting incident. The rest of the movie's her figuring it out.
That would have been a much more interesting film, honestly.
They have a moment at the, like... I don't know the pacing of the film, but it's like... I was going to say, like, the climax is... I don't know if it's a climax or if it's not supposed to be. About 2/3 in, where she's like, I'm the new Santa. And she has her oh shit moment. And I was watching, going, be a great moment, better movie, but get on with it. Please. You wandered on that scene for a minute. I would have cut that on the cutting room floor. Because just get to it. We've spent so long on the day before, on like the week before Christmas. It's to the point it's like, oh man, it's Christmas Eve at like 6 p.m. on the North Pole. She still hasn't fucking left the North Pole yet. And she's having this existential crisis. And I'm like, go! You have to go. You literally, the whole movie, have been going, oh man, it's so close to Christmas. It's so close to Christmas. It's literally about to be Christmas. And you're like, I gotta sit and look at this thing my dad left me.
Yeah, just like a weird sentimental moment.
I put on 5 pounds.
I'm sitting in the sleigh, about to go, and I don't know if I can go. Just Christmas Eve! Go!
Just do it. Jesus Christ.
I'm gonna be honest, it's a movie that if I could see it like if you got a kid. You put it on the kid, mindless television Christmas movie, whatever. But there are so many better Christmas movies to put on than this. It's
basically a last shot desperation film if you run out of Christmas movies.
Yeah.
And even then you can rewatch some.
It has a good message with the female Santa.
It's just not...
But to get there is a headache.
Again, they just made it.
The attempts at comedy. The trailers show you the attempts at comedy. And those are the funniest moments of the movie.
That seems to be like a lot of comedies, like the funniest moments.
It's literally... Well, here's what one of the moments is. To spoil it for you, in case you want to know. This is in the trailer, too. It's a woman coming up to Anna Kendrick going, I like your yoga pants. And her going, yes, thank you. These are great yogurt pants. And her being like, no, yoga. And Anna Kendrick going, yogurt.
Then that's a joke.
That's one of the funniest moments of the film.
Holy,
it's that kind of humor.
That's dry. That's not even humor.
It's Anna Kendrick, one of the most charming people, not making any of them land.
Nothing. Just like absolutely.
But she's just working with what she's given.
She's working with what she's given. What she's given sucks. And the villain of the film is the cousin.
And because she's given something so bad that it just makes it look bad on her.
Yeah. And the villain of the movie, is their cousin who becomes Santa for a period of time, who's literally Amazon. They make the joke to be like, you're not Christmas, and everything he is, he's literally Amazon, a person embodiment of Amazon. And I'm like, I get your point.
He's just
move on.
And then there's just like, no, it's Amazon. Don't you get it, guys? It's funny because it's Amazon.
And it's like, all the jokes are like, what? You're using drones to deliver presents? That's not Christmas, as a joke. That's one of the comedic moments.
Oh god.
So it's a movie. It's not watchable for me, but for some people, I'm sure it's watchable. Like if you got a kid and you just want to stick them in front of the TV while you make a Christmas casserole.
This honestly kind of makes me really glad I haven't dove into Disney Plus at all.
It's the worst Disney Plus I've seen, but it's again there are charming moments of it. There's like a moment where earlier in the film, Anna Kendrick met this. I forget. She's deaf, is what she is. Yes, she meets this deaf girl, and Anna Kendrick has Santa Claus abilities that her brother, who's next in line for Santa, doesn't have, where she can understand all languages, including sign language. And she meets that girl before she's Santa in Phoenix, because a lot of the movie takes place in Phoenix, aka they got a little plot of Phoenix and the rest is green screen that looks horrible.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to shoot in Arizona. So.
Gee, I wonder why.
The Phoenix was probably New Mexico, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Probably.
But anyway.
Like, it's a desert, so we're going to say it's Phoenix.
Yeah. But there's a moment where she has a really sweet moment with the deaf girl. Then as Santa goes to I believe it's a homeless shelter where the deaf girl is at. And the deaf girl wakes up and sees her, and Anna Kendrick up at that point has a lot of self-doubt. And the deaf girl signs, "Thank you, Santa."
Is there subtitles
Yes.
when she signs?
Yes.
Okay. At least there's that. At least they didn't make you figure it out on your own.
But that moment is really sweet.
Yeah.
It just is a headache to get to that moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
Yeah, pretty much.
Good to know.
But anyway, yeah. So let's just move on because I don't want to think about it. That's my number 3.
Number 2, worst film of 2019.
Number 2 for me is a Netflix original film called The Dirt, which is I forgot what the band is. Motley Crue, essentially. It's basically a biopic film of Motley Crue, who
I've heard of this. Okay.
I've never really listened to their music. I know people who have, but I have heard their songs before. Like it's just sort of in the back of my mind. So I just kind of watched this, pretty not like preaching to the choir or anything. It was just more like seeing this as a film. You know how we joked about Bohemian Rhapsody being a bad music biopic? That has fucking nothing on how terrible this is.
Okay, so off of these screenshots, is there a lot of yellow light scenes?
Kind of, but it's not just that. It's like...
Because, I will say, let me pull it back up. Shots like this, with this colored lighting, really pissed me off.
That's the entire film. Actually, yeah. It looks like that.
Oh, gotcha.
The thing is, it looks exactly like Bohemian Rhapsody, actually. Like, on a visual cinematography.
That's never a good thing. Unless it's Rami Malek.
Unless if it's... Yeah, sure. But, this is done by a bunch of, fucking nobodies.
See, there's no reason to put yellow light in this shot.
It just looks kind of flat. But,
oh my god.
The best way I can describe it is, the thing that gave me the clue as to what kind of film this was going to be is the opening scene is kind of VHS footage of 80s fashion and main character being the 80s were the worst decade of all time until we showed up, and then it shows them, and then Motley Crue music plays, title card.
Yeah, that's...
And then it was we were the best. We banged all the girls and had all the drugs.
Oh my!
And we were the best, and we had the best dick.
Yeah, even the
sex all the time.
It was literally that for an entire movie. Even the scenes where they're like scenes that should be kind of emotional, like a character has like a fatal accident.
I don't want to see it for meme purposes.
I literally had the same thought.
It could, but like honestly, it's so fucking infuriating. Like,
just watch the opening scene.
Just watch the opening scene, yeah. Like there's a scene where fucking a character has a fatal, like almost like life-ending accident, and then it's
alright, man.
Yeah, like
I'm alive.
No, if I'm remembering it correctly, like the way they're going about it is like it was sort of sad at first, but it's like, but it was pretty epic, wasn't it, guys?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Can't wait to tell my grandkids about that one.
And then there's just like certain shit where it's like pretty obvious that this was like kind of co-funded by the actual band itself, because like there's some shady shit that happens in this story, but then they're just kind of like brush it off. Like there's essentially a whole subplot where like one of the band members is like abusive to their girlfriend, and then they're just like, but it was all right.
Oh my.
And it's essentially it's like
he's my bro, so I forgive him.
It even does like the whole like she was a bitch anyways. Like literally they do that, and it's like you guys are really doing this in this day and age. Fucking 10 out of 10, guys, fantastic. But like, it's just it feels like it like when I mentioned like it feels like it was funded by the band. It almost feels like it was also screenwritten by the band, because it's just like it's this sort of like kind of. Just
based off of a true story.
They do that. They literally do like the whenever there's something crazy, like just remember this shit really happened, dude.
Oh my god.
But like, God, it's just it feels like so like full of like egotistical and fucking like no self-reflection whatsoever. Like at least with Bohemian Rhapsody, there was sort of like the kind of hindsight behind it and sort of like the self-reflection of some of the characters, whereas this like has jack fucking shit.
Oh
yeah.
Boy.
And the only
like, I see Bohemian Rhapsody as if it had like a better crew executing it. Could be a better movie.
This is like just fundamentally broken.
Yeah,
it is.
That's what it sounds like.
Nothing about it is like redeemable, I'd say, honestly. And it's my number 2. I cannot wait for you to tell you guys about my number 1.
God, I love this part of the podcast.
The funny thing is that I thought number 3 was hilarious, with the only making $3,000 in the box office for a $23 million budget. Then we get this.
You have no idea what number 1 is going to be, how bad that one is.
Dylan, what you got?
Number 2, which is no surprise if you watched one of our earlier podcasts, is Hellboy.
Yeah.
I love the synchronized sound.
It was just awful, honestly. Like if it's on TV, if I had to choose between either like watching Hellboy on TV or sitting at a wall for 2 hours, I think I'm watching the wall for 2 hours. Honestly, like it's approaching like it's on the border of watchable and unwatchable. Like I think I'd have to be in a really weird state to want to watch it again. But I don't know. It was just a mess.
Well, we already have 2 great Hellboy movies.
Hellboy is
Why would you watch this one?
Hellboy is just kind of... It should have been done. This film shouldn't have even been made.
I think they should let Guillermo do a third and then call it done. Like, nope, you can't touch this ever again. It's done. Move on.
I get the feeling, though, the main reason is maybe they just didn't have, like, the money to really fund another Guillermo del Toro, because this looked cheap as fuck as well.
It's just, it's just not a good time.
No.
Don't see this film if you have the choice to.
Yeah. Especially if you really enjoyed the previous Hellboy films, because it's basically...
It'll ruin it for you, basically.
Yeah.
Well, if you have to either choose between this film or my number 1 worst film, obviously choose this film, but we'll talk about that later.
We'll discuss it soon. Yeah.
Okay. Well, my number 2 is just like number 3, a film that I think there's an audience for who will like it. Like, if I talk to someone about this film and they're like, oh, that movie was so fun, I love it, I'd be like...
Good for you.
Good for you. Yeah, exactly. Fair enough.
But I hated it.
It's a movie that, as I was watching it, I couldn't tell if it was stylized or stupid. I constantly went back and forth like, maybe I'm watching this as very the wrong frame of reference. Maybe that's really stylized and cool. Then 30 seconds would go by, and I'd be like, nope, fuck this. Oh god, fuck that. And that film is Six Underground.
Yeah.
It's a capstone of Michael Bay.
It really is, honestly.
It, like, as I saw it, it's like no one else would. If I was just shown this film and told nothing else about it, I would know it's Bay in a heartbeat.
Exactly. It is very clear.
So it's basically his resume.
Even the sound effects, I was like, that's from Transformers. That's from Transformers. There's not even original sound design.
This is Michael Bay's The Irishman.
So basically, this is what he did to. He needed to boost, like, get a new resume out, so he just made a film of his resume
and
instead.
Like, I'll say, a lot of this film feels like the kind of movies that Ryan Reynolds makes fun of as Deadpool. Except I also think that he had fun making it.
He probably did. I could see
that.
So
I don't think he wouldn't make fun of it unless he wasn't a part of it. I think being a part of it saved the Deadpool wrath from it.
Fair enough,
Because I think it must have been fun for him to make the film, because he's like, oh, I get to say that cheesy line? Hells yes.
Yeah, I think, like...
I get to be in that action sequence? Hells yes.
Probably being the protagonist of a Michael Bay film could probably be fun.
But man,
maybe.
The dialogue is rough. The concepts have been done before and done better. And just... So the way... I also have this statement here. I think Bay is great at what he does. But what he does isn't great.
It isn't... Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect way to summarize it. It's...
So I think this is a capstone of everything that represents Michael Bay. So if you're on board with that, you'll like this movie. And I applaud you for liking it.
Yeah, it's like... He's been refining a very specific style
every
for
shot,
years.
I was like, he's been honing that in. I've seen that done before, and that's the... I don't even want to say best he's done it, but that's the most Bay he's ever done that moment.
It is the most him, yeah.
Yes. And, like, it's... I feel like this is Bay at his finest, but now we know what his finest is.
Yeah, honestly. Pretty much.
And again, my list is very subjective, and I think this is one of my two most subjective picks, because I've been watching Bay and his technique and all that kind of stuff, and I see there's like a Bayism in every shot, in every piece of dialogue.
It really is
every moment, to the point where it was flooding my sensory with how Bay it is.
It's kind of crazy that, like, he doesn't even write his own scripts technically, and because, like,
yet it still is so consistent.
It feels, you feel the Bay influence.
Literally, there are reaction shots where he's saying a line that could have been said by Sam Witwicky, and it's the same kind of reaction shot where Bay probably just told Ryan Reynolds, react to something, say that line.
So,
no, amp it up. Amp it up.
So basically, every writer that writes for him is like, oh shoot, I'm writing for Michael Bay.
Right, exactly.
I need to write in this tone or else he's gonna fire me, so I better get it right.
Pretty much.
And like, yeah, watching it was an experience.
Yeah. For me, the kind of feeling I got from it was like, there's a scene in the beginning where they're like driving their car and there's like a slow motion action shot, and I just got like a immediate mental flashback to like the slow motion reaction shot in Age of Extinction. I was just like, oh god, we're doing this again, aren't we? I was like, yeah, I'm gonna watch a Michael Bay movie, but I didn't realize I was watching
all of his Michael Bay movies combined.
Getting the real feel of this is what it was like. I kind of forgot for a little while.
Yeah. So the entire first sequence feels to me like he saw Baby Driver. It was like, I can do my version of Baby Driver.
Without the
music. And his version... There's a part of it that has music, and I was like...
Oh, fuck, I forgot. Yeah. I forgot so much.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, okay, and also... let me get to my second point, and then I'll get to what I just remembered. I think it might be the same slow motion shot, but in that car chase, there's a scene where literally a car's drifting, and Ryan Reynolds looks out the window and goes, "A pregnant lady!" And it's a slow-mo glamour shot of this supermodel holding a baby, like, running away in high heels.
What the fuck?
As the car crosses. It's in the first 15 minutes.
Wait, that happened?
Yes.
Oh,
and then another person in the car goes, "Puppies!" And next to the pregnant lady are two puppies running in slow-mo from the car. And the car barely misses, and Ryan Reynolds, he doesn't do this, but he practically looks at the camera to say his line of, the pregnant lady is okay. And I was like, Jesus, what just happened?
How did I forget that? Holy fuck.
And literally, the glamour shot of the pregnant woman could have been from another movie where Transformers were in the background landing.
Pretty much.
And I wouldn't have batted an eye.
It has, like, Michael Bay has basically created, like, the recycled visual language.
Yeah, and then the other thing is that each kind of character has a stick to it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God, yeah, they do.
One of them is a parkourist. And it's like, that's his superpower. He can jump and climb shit. And I can never take his character seriously.
Also, he was called the Skywalker.
Yes, that's right. And it's like the entire character, they're like, man, he's badass. He literally just jumped. It's like, how is that contributing to your team?
Yeah, like, what do you do?
At all.
What do you do?
Like,
what is your power?
he might as well pulled out a mod and started vaping, staring at the camera. Like, jeez. And, like, I bet Michael Bay's been waiting to make an R-rated film forever so that he can just have the blood, the squibs that were so, like...
Oh, God. Like, that was the thing, like, when I was watching this, like, I still felt the influence of Transformers, but I felt more strongly like Bad Boys than anything else, because
it is also very bad.
It's essentially, like, basically, since he didn't get to make Bad Boys 3, he just made his unofficial Bad Boys sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Because it might as well have just been that.
But, man... Like, that is an experience.
It really is.
And, like, again, if someone came up to me and said, that movie was so fun, I love it, I'd be like, I get it. I get why you love it.
Fair enough, yeah.
But it's a very selective audience.
It's a very selective audience.
Yeah. It's one of those things, like, I wish I could enjoy it the way you could.
Exactly.
I don't know.
It is Bay. Like, that film could have been called Directed by Michael Bay.
Just call it Bay.
Hey, watch Bay.
Or, never mind. No, that's just call it Michael Bay.
Bay, Michael.
Bay, the experience. Alright. So, does that mean I have to talk about my number one? Do I really have to?
Yep.
Okay,
so
I'm
say
waiting.
the name.
I'm excited to hear this.
First, I want to do, like, a quick kind of honorable mentions, if that's alright.
Go for it. Throw it out there.
Just because, like, there's a lot of stuff that really could have made the list, but just didn't, out of, like, it wasn't bad enough, or, like, just any sort of thing. So, some mentions are, Men in Black International, 6 Underground,
Yep.
It Chapter 2, Aladdin, Hellboy, the Dumbo remake, Tall Girl, if any of you guys remember that, and Dark Phoenix. Alright, so, worst film of the year is, like, I think it's, like, you know how, like, even for, like, the worst of movies, there's at least, like, a couple of people that really could at least enjoy it? I don't think anyone in existence has ever enjoyed this film. It's called, you might have heard of it before, it's called LaQuisha. Have you heard of it?
I don't think so, no.
Literally, this is a concept that if you release this in the 1960s, people would call it offensive. It is, and not only that, it is probably, like, the most technically incompetent film I've seen this year. And it's a comedy that makes fucking, like, Jack and Jill look funny. That's all I'll say.
Oh no, this
looks
not good.
Yes, I did watch that. I did watch that.
Oh!
Oh no.
Okay, talk.
Alright, so should I describe
So it's
the
an
plot?
Amazon Prime
Yeah, describe
video?
it.
So the plot of the film is a bartender, I think he has like an average...
middle-aged, divorced white bartender.
Whose name is literally Joe.
Yeah.
Is deciding one day to go into radio. But he can't get hired because of... I don't know.
He's a white guy.
That's his explanation in the story is... By the way, acted by the director and writer of the film also. So we got like a Tom
Jeremy Civilian.
I almost thought Jerry Seinfeld for a second. But he says, no one's gonna hire me because I'm not a minority. And so he decides...
There are no white people in radio.
Yeah, no white people at all in radio. And his
When does this film take place? Like, what year?
Current times, essentially.
So, oh, boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, boy.
And so, what he decides to do then to make up for this is pretend to be a black lady on radio. And what ensues is, like, actual people being like, oh, I connect with you such on a personal level. Thank you so much.
Black. I'm black.
Yeah, we're and that sort of thing. And it, like, at first he's, like, taking this all as, like, just basically a con. But then there's, like, a certain point...
Then he starts getting into it?
He gets so into it, there is a line, probably the worst line I've ever heard in a movie this decade, which is, I think, on a mental level, I'm actually a black woman.
Oh my god.
Then that's all I'll say about the film, because, like, literally, it speaks for itself. It's also... TV movies look better than this. It literally looks like something that was like a YouTube parody film. This looks like a College Humor sketch.
It sounds like I could make something better than this.
You could. I absolutely believe that you could. Everybody could make a better film than this. And I encourage you to do so. Just to fucking prank on fucking Jimmy Seville, whatever his goddamn fucking name is.
Jeremy Seville?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a movie that got released somehow. And it's like the perfect way to end off the decade with, like, literally probably the worst film of the decade.
Guess what? It had a limited release in theaters.
Wait, Deadass?
Yeah. Just a little one.
Wait, Deadass?
Fucking, you kidding me with this?
Nope. It got an average of a 1 out of 10, a 0% approval rating from 5 critics. A writer for The Guardian said they criticized the quality of cinematography, audio editing, casting, special effects, plot, and he concluded that it was the worst film ever made.
Pretty much. That's
Wow.
a very, very apt description. So, it's one of those things where you could meme it up, but, like, at what cost to your mental state, your emotional state, literally every part of your human being. Yeah. And I did watch it all the way through, somehow.
And survived?
And survived.
How many
and lived
years
to
off your life did that take?
87. I'm dead right now. I'm not even here.
Oh, that sounds dead off.
He died on the spot.
I died the minute the credits rolled. The minute I saw it written, directed by Jeremy Seville, I was like...
Written, directed, produced, acted, like, he did everything pretty much.
Wait, did he?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, is this like another, like...
Let me see.
Extreme Tommy Wiseau situation?
He's, it says that he...
I don't even think
produced,
Tommy Wiseau would...
Yeah.
Tommy Wiseau would not stoop this low.
Okay, he produced, wrote it, directed in it, and starred in it.
Yep. And that's what we got. Sorry to have to drop that bombshell for everyone.
Okay. Well,
but, yeah.
Dylan.
My number one worst film of the year is, at no surprise, Cats. I just hate it so much. Did you get around to seeing it?
Yes, I did get around to seeing it. And
Okay.
to be honest with you, completely honest, it is more in line with the original musical than I could have guessed. It's very similar, and in fact, the things that they changed are the things that I, for the most part, disliked. One change they made that I actually did like is in the actual musical, the main character, that kind of white cat, isn't in it at all. She's the audience. So all the songs and moments that are directed to
towards
her
the audience.
are directed to the audience, of the cat singing to the audience. That was the change that I like. Now, there are a lot of other changes I didn't like. For instance, McCavity, who's Idris Elba's character, fucking sucks. Design, looks, the CGI. He, I think, got the worst CGI by far. Like, as soon as he took out that trench coat and that... Oh, that's awful.
I think when
Can we please talk about the opening scene of the film?
Jellicle Cats? Or the opening shot?
No, just the opening song of the film.
Yeah, so that's Jellicle
That whole
Cats.
scene. No, but just the scene that went along with that. It felt so choppy to me. To me, there wasn't any flow.
I could feel that.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I feel like there was too many, like, I'm sure I'm sure there's a reason for it, but I just feel like there was too many cats.
Wait till you watch a stage version, and it's like 20 cats all on stage dancing towards you.
Pretty much.
And then the other thing that I mentioned that I definitely hated was the ending of the film.
Yes. Now, what's my point? I think it was a great idea to make the main cat the audience, so you don't have to look at the camera and sing to that. But they do it anyways at the end, which that bothered me.
It just felt so out of place.
Yeah. Like, you have an entire film where you ignore the camera, then randomly at the end
so basically they ignore it all the way through, and then like, wait, shoot, we need a nod to the original lovers, because if we don't, they're gonna be pissed. So let's tack it on right here.
Right, which I would have either been fine with.
And then on top of that, the main white cat is in that shot.
Yeah,
she is there,
which takes, even if you are making a nod to the audience and still talking to them, make it so the cat that you've been using as your audience isn't there.
Yeah, because also I will say that song doesn't work with the whole that cat's the audience, because the song about, so you humans, by the way, because they're choosing to acknowledge the audience. It just, I would have either cut the song or totally changed the song so you're not saying, hey humans who've been watching this movie. Because that's literally what the song's about. I just don't think that moment worked.
They pulled a weird Wayne's World there.
The whole, I don't like Rebel Wilson's character. I don't like James Corden's character. Jason Derulo's was okay at moments, but if I were to watch this film again, I would want to watch a version that just cut that whole part of the movie. Because also
what part of the movie?
From Rebel Wilson to the James Corden part. Because another thing that they changed, which I didn't like, in the actual version, the stage version of it, McCavity isn't really seen until he kidnaps the main cat. Until then, it's the whole idea of McCavity.
Yeah.
I think it ruined it
and
to
then
show
just
him kidnapping the cats. The whole part on the ship never happened.
In the play?
Nope. What happened was when he kidnaps the main cat, you stick with the rest of them for the whole magic part. And it's like, where the heck did she go? You have no idea. And he does the magic and he gets her to come back. McCavity's barely in it. It's the idea of him.
Yeah, which I think would have been better for the film.
Definitely for the CGI, but whew.
Like, the only positive that the film has going for it is there is some cool, interesting shots.
I like the music still, which is a cop-out because it's the same music as the stage version.
Yeah.
But I think the singing and the choreography still holds up.
I didn't have a problem with the music at all. It's just, like you said, the cats.
The comedy, I thought.
Oh, the comedy was
horrible.
No, and then I think like Luke mentioned on our last podcast that we had like a week ago or whatever, just the whole ants thing.
Yeah, because that wasn't in the stage version. The cockroaches or the mice.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, the cockroaches, ants. That's how memorable it was. I called them ants. Like that whole like ant. Like they, like Luke said, they don't need faces.
Yeah, they just could have.
They don't need to be in there at all.
They didn't need to be there.
They didn't even get used.
No,
other than that in that one scene. And then you see her carrying around the box of them, but that's it.
Yeah, and like Rebel Wilson's character was like, "Ha, fat cat joke." What does she serve to the story?
Fat cat joke.
Well, she's trying to get. She's trying to get a new life, so she's gonna play as a threat. That's pretty much.
Which again, that storyline was part of it, but it was more so the part that happened in that theater auditorium space. Which again, another thing I like about the stage version, at least the time I saw it, was it took place pretty much at all one location, which was the junkyard, which for me built up enough of the aesthetic of what their world is like. Which the sets look. Oh.
So as someone who saw the play, like, does the film, like, where does the plot line up as far as like the film versus the
identically
play?
Except for those three cats I mentioned and McCavity.
So basically,
and the new cat.
So basically, the stage plot is actually shorter than what we got, essentially.
The music might be longer. They might have trimmed that down, but
the actual plot itself,
the plot's the same. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I'll never see that movie again.
Can I say sort of my brief thoughts on it?
Go for it.
So, I'm gonna be in the minority on this one and saying that I liked it, but not for the reasons that were probably intended. Because, I mean, it was obviously probably trying to be like a fun musical sort of thing that's like very whimsical. The reason I like it is because nothing has put me in such a sense of confusion and sort of like terrified awe as this film. Because there's always like a little weird decision that like kept me from being like, okay, I got used to this is bored. like the fucking cockroaches and mice, like you guys were talking about, the faces. Like, I was like, okay, I'm getting settled into, oh my fucking god. Then there was like, Jason Derulo's character showed up, and then there was this sort of weirdly sexual imagery there.
I'll say, as I was watching it, I was remembering the stage version is also very sexual. The movie's a lot more like sexy, where the stage version's more subtle with the choreography, because it's about dancing.
Yeah.
A lot of the dancing's very sexual.
Yeah, and it was just like, yeah, like there's some moments where it's like it could have been dancing, but then there's other times like, no, you know what you did. You know what you did. Kids have to watch this right now. What the fuck, guys?
Which I'll say, I think my biggest problem with the movie is the marketing. It should not have been marketed as a mainstream film. Mainstream audiences will not like it. That was a horrible, horrible choice. I think the target audience would probably be people who saw the original stage version and liked it. Or, like, maybe the art house film crowd.
So would you guys say you would watch it again?
I would, yes. But again, I'd skip through the Rebel Wilson, James Corden, Jason Derulo parts.
I would watch it like at a midnight screening with a bunch of people who are in the like same mindset as I am.
That would be awesome.
Like, imagine if this was like the next like Rocky Horror Picture Show where like everyone just like says the dumb shit that happens in it sometimes.
Well, I could also see that also being kind of meh if people start dressing up.
No, not just excluding that part. That
Gotcha.
part, no. I mean more like the engaging with the film and like the weird shit that happens. Like, I don't know, maybe everyone takes a sip of their drink as they do the fucking milk sequence. Or some shit like that.
Yeah.
But like, no. Like, it's for me, the reason I love it is because I was like, don't know what this is, I'm not a fan of it, and yeah, that imagery terrifies me, and then someone told me that it was like a high budget midnight movie, and I was like, going to see that now. And it was exactly what I was like. Yeah, if they marketed it as like a midnight movie, then I think more people probably would have seen it.
I don't know how many people though would know what a midnight movie is enough to get that.
That's fair. I mean, just more for Mike's sake.
Yeah.
I would have been there like, oh yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
That's where I stand.
That's understandable though.
I mean, I'm sure. Like, again, who knows? If I would have watched some of the other films, maybe it would have been pushed down. But as it stands, that's the worst film that I saw this year.
No, I totally understand that, honestly.
It's a movie they marketed as a wide release that should have been marketed to the 5% who actually would like it.
Like, ultimately, this is the only film that I wanted to walk out of this year.
And I totally having seen the stage version, totally get that.
Because, like,
Now, imagine T.S. Eliot poetry that makes no sense, by the way. It's literally like you could insert Dr. Seuss lines instead in between the songs. There's no dialogue in the stage version. It would be like, song. And I'll use Seuss as an example. Green eggs and ham. Some response, yes I am. And the next song. It's that bizarre. And literally, the emotion it's trying to get across.
But the stage version obviously has, again, the stage version has its own audience, and obviously it's not for everybody. But the film, like you said, it was directed to be towards everybody.
Yeah, which
was it dead? They're like,
no shit. You shouldn't be surprised at what happened.
They're like, look, guys, look, we have so many big names. Please come see our movie.
And it's like, they market it for everyone when in reality is only for like 2 to 3% of the world.
Exactly.
To see. Which apparently I guess I'm one of them now.
And your number one worst film of the year, which is
Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was expecting that one to show up at some point.
Yep, which, just to reiterate, I went to go see 10 p.m. in IMAX one night. Another background, huge X-Men fan, huge comic fan. wowza.
Mm-hmm.
So
I will start off with preferencing. I think you are the biggest X-Men fan here.
Mm-hmm,
I agree. Yeah.
So I will just say that. I think your connection with that kind of maybe perhaps boosted its ranking.
Oh, 1,000%.
Okay.
But I feel
But
rightfully
also-
so because it's bad.
It's a movie that as I was watching it, it's like, oh my god, this is so long, it's so slow, and then I thought about it, and it's like, so many nothings have happened, to where you also feel like you can't keep up, but when you think about what you can't keep up with, nothing's happened.
But here's the thing that makes it worse is the same nothings over and over again.
The same nothings. And as a comic fan, they disrespect the heck out of Professor X. You don't have to show him as perfect, but McAvoy, didn't care. But his writing was so not Xavier.
Yeah, the thing, before this in the previous film, he seemed like a genuinely kind of caring person trying to, help out. In this film, he's fucking, gaslighting people, essentially.
He's a gaslighting dick the entire time. When in the movie right before this, he almost sacrificed his life for the team.
And it's not like one of those things of maybe there's progression of it. No, just, it just on a dime.
But also, Jean uses the Phoenix Force at the end of Apocalypse. Totally ignored in this movie. Just never, that moment never mentioned again.
No, it's not canon anymore.
And if you want to talk about someone who didn't care, Jennifer Lawrence might as well have not been there.
Pretty much, yeah. She really might have as well. God. Might as well have been not there.
The lawyers had a gun to her head on set, it felt like.
It's off screen,
The only person who cared was fucking Fassbender. But even him had no material to work with.
He was just kind of there, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Screen time.
And it's what a waste. The writing is stupid and garbage.
Very, very bad.
And, I feel bad for Sophie Turner to have had this past year with the Game of Thrones fan base, then to have this movie come out and now get the Marvel fan base. She has been getting it in the worst way.
Hopefully she'll recover from it.
Yeah, and it's a film with great actors that just didn't work.
Yeah.
At all. Nothing about, I'm trying to think of a redeeming quality this movie has. There's even one fight sequence that I can think of between the X-Men and the Brotherhood that could have been good, but the way it was shot, you were so lost and you couldn't tell what was happening where. There was no sense of geography.
Yeah, the coverage was probably just freaking shoot that, we'll make it work in
they
the
were
edit.
never on set at the same time.
They'll be like, we'll make it work in the edit, and then they're in the edit, it's like, oh fuck.
The editing was not good.
Nah.
The writing was I'd rather watch Origins than this, because Origins I can have fun with.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
This, nothing.
No, not at all.
Oh, it was brutally bad.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is Origins is a very low point for the series, definitely. But this is it's a low because it's not just bad. It's almost valueless almost, and it's in the story and the way it's presented.
It might as well have not happened, because despite the reception of Apocalypse, that would have been a higher note to end on.
Exactly. This has no reason to be there, and it just is kind of.
It was just a waste of money
and it's probably
and time.
And it's probably gonna be the last X-Men movie for who knows how long.
Yeah, well, it seems like it looks like Marvel is trying to fast track their Fox properties a little bit more than they were when they first got the properties, but still, they got a lot of damage control to do. Boy howdy, we thought they had damage control to do with Spider-Man. Nothing compared to this.
Hey, when is New Mutants coming out?
Man.
Well,
this is up there with me with fan-forstic in terms of unwatchable movies in general, but especially superhero movies.
Yeah, the superhero, the worst of superhero genre of films.
Yeah, this film even tried to be dark in a lot of moments, and even that didn't work at all.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to know my full thoughts, watch the Let's Talk Movies we did on it.
Yeah, we went on that for a while, didn't we?
Yeah, I can't think of anything redeeming in my brain. Even, like, I think the best part for me would be Fassbender.
I think you did, in that original Let's Talk Movies About, I think you did find one redeeming quality, but I can't remember it.
I might have. As time's gone on, I don't remember it. I even watched, this is how bad it is, I've watched videos on Dark Phoenix this morning and yesterday to try and remember points about it. I still don't remember a redeeming factor, having refreshed myself on maybe 30 minutes to an hour worth of Dark Phoenix the past 2 days.
Now thinking back, was it really a redeeming quality?
Interesting.
But, yeah.
We had a lot of interesting worst films, didn't we?
Whew, yeah, that was fun.
You had a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah, seriously.
I go out of my way sometimes.
Alrighty, so we're good to move on to Wishlist
films of 2019.
Yeah.
So, for Wishlist films, are we all on a top 5 on this?
I have 5.
Yeah, I've got 5.
I'm going to name off a couple, wait, no, never mind. Yeah, so we'll just go 5. I just have 5. I want to double check that I covered all my 5.
And mine are in order as well.
Yeah,
so.
all mine are always in order. So
mine's sort of, yeah. For my number 5, it's sort of a very weird kind of niche film, but it's something that I really did want to see. It was a film called Mr. America. Now, essentially, it's a spin-off of the Tim and Eric show, which is like a comedy show on Adult Swim, of a specific... It wasn't an episode. It was essentially just like a prank that they did for like a long while, which was... the show is about 2 guys named Tim and Eric, and they're also real names are Tim and Eric. There was basically a spin-off episode where Eric gets sued for essentially like an accidental like massacre for a like what was it? Like it was like a Fire Fest basically prank.
Oh.
And it was like 5 2-hour long like actual like court episodes, like not real but like filmed to be like a court episode. And the movie is essentially, after going off, like, guilt-free, he tries to run for governor of, like, the state of California. And it's him trying to fight the lawyer that sued him to begin with. Or no, like, the lawyer that was the, not the defendant, but what's it called in the court case when it's, like, the person that's, like, this person is, like, guilty for these reasons. You know what I mean,
I know it. Oh, man.
Not the defendant, it's the
prosecutor.
The prosecutor, yeah. He essentially he found out the prosecutor is trying to run for the state of California, and it's a mockumentary of him trying to build a campaign against him.
That's awesome. By
saying like, I think it was like Jerry Connor was like the guy's name. I'll say it for the sake of the video. It's like, Jerry Connor is a liar and I hate him. Don't vote for him. Vote for me and I'll give you 5 lollipops or some shit like that. And it's just an entire movie of him trying to build like a campaign mixed with actual like footage of him talking with real people, like it's essentially like an entire prank film of him trying to build the campaign, and some of it is with actors, but then there's times where he goes into like a cafe with real people in there being like, what you're doing is illegal, you know that? It's like, I don't care, it's right.
That's awesome.
And I really just wanted to see it because I love the Tim and Eric show, and it's just essentially like an extended spin-off episode. That's my number 5.
My number 5 is Downton Abbey, however you pronounce it.
Yeah, Downton Abbey.
Yeah. It just looked interesting, and I meant to get around to seeing it, but I just never did.
Did you ever see the show?
No.
Yeah, from what I know, I think the movie is kind of the equivalent of like
watching the whole show,
or like a season finale of the series type of thing of like, hey, we're paying off stuff from the show, look at the characters, they're back, hey type of thing. So,
yeah.
I mean, who knows, it probably wouldn't make any sense to me, but it still would have been cool to see it. I don't have much else to say.
Alright, well, my number 5 is Hustlers.
Ooh,
which
that was a good one. A very good one.
Yeah. And
wait, which one?
J-Lo, when the film was coming out and all that kind of stuff, was watching like the behind the scenes of her workout and all that kind of stuff, and just to like, as like a thank you, this is what actors should be doing, wanted to watch that alone.
Yeah.
And like, because the behind the scenes went from like her pre-production workout, all that stuff, to her first day on set, and holy shit,
it's probably like
insane.
She went physically taxing.
Do that. Yeah. So, and then even I find the premise kind of interesting, and some of the acting. But J-Lo especially is a reason that I definitely would like to still see it.
No, she's definitely the highlight.
It made quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
$156 million for a $20 million budget.
Yeah,
that's good.
It's really interesting, honestly. Like, I definitely recommend it. It's essentially kind of like,
I enjoyed it a lot.
Imagine like Goodfellas, but about the stripping which
I think
career
is an interesting premise.
Yeah, it's honestly like really good. Honestly, I didn't have like a whole lot of expectations.
I would honestly say go out of your way to see it. Honestly,
yeah, I'd definitely say it's worth it.
My wish list for every year is essentially me saying like, so these are the movies I'll probably see 2020. That I'm a year behind on.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because you know what movies you still haven't seen? You still haven't seen Kingsman, I'm sure.
I have not seen Kingsman yet. But I did see, I'm blanking on the name now, the comedy version of Black Klansman, essentially. Phone Talker.
The green... Wait.
No. Telemark...
Sorry to bother you.
Sorry to bother you.
Yeah,
I saw Sorry to Bother You. I saw a lot of the other ones I wanted to watch that were with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're catching up, you're getting there.
Slow but steady.
My number 4 is Queen and Slim, which
yes, that was...
Is it very good?
We'll talk about it later.
Fair enough.
Not gonna lie.
I'd been wanting to see it for a while. I just never got around to it, but like I love I don't know how to say his name properly, but Daniel Kaluuya, I think is his name.
Oh.
And
it's so good.
I don't know. I like the idea of kind of like a sort of modern Bonnie and Clyde film, but like the way that it's shot and all that looks really interesting.
I know what you're talking about now.
I would love to see it at some point. I might check it out when it comes out, like on Blu-ray or something like that. But it really was something that caught my eye, just stylistically and sort of the story and all that. And
I will say. No, I'll save it for later. Sorry.
Okay.
Gotcha. All right.
Is that all you want to say?
Yeah, that's all I'll say.
So number 4 for me is Bombshell. We talked about it on the last podcast. I never actually got around to seeing it, but it just seems like you said, it just has an interesting premise, and I just think, obviously, I think if I would have seen it, it wouldn't have been high up on my list, but I still think it would have been interesting to see something that we haven't necessarily seen before.
Yeah,
which is sometimes all I sometimes I want to see stuff that we've seen before, and then sometimes I really like. Sometimes I want to like. Yeah.
I think that's fair. Yeah, and having seen it, I do think it's a movie to go see. It's definitely kind of subject matter wise something that is important to be shown more and more and more. And I think it's interesting to have, at least to my knowledge, one of the first like the Me Too movies, a movie about something that happened in the Me Too movie.
Yeah,
which is like our time.
Yeah.
Like we're so used to seeing stuff that happened 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, where that isn't necessarily relevant to us, like directly relevant to us. But this is something that we've been a part of.
Yeah. Kind of like when people who might have seen like The Social Network when that came out, like that was only 6 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I just wish there was some better cinematography to it, but that's me.
Yeah, this is Wishlist, not better.
Yeah, exactly.
So. Definitely.
Number 4.
All right, number 4 for me is Rocket Man.
Ooh, yes.
Because I dig it, kind of what it's about. I kind of envision it as a better Bohemian Rhapsody.
That's literally all it is better Bohemian Rhapsody.
And the other thing that interests me from someone who I talked to who loved that movie is that it's basically a musical.
Yeah,
which I think is such a cool idea for a biopic about a musician, especially like Elton John.
Especially
to make it a musical.
Yeah, like the way that they use that is very much purposeful, because there's a point where like it kind of goes back to just doing the more like musical biopic sort of things with like him playing the music, but like before that it is very theatrical. Like there's like even the first song of the film, and there's like songs like Saturday Night and Honky Cat that had like the very extremely theatrical like elements to it that were like really fun to watch, because you still got like the aesthetic of Elton John through the style, but it was its own thing still. Yeah.
So that's my number 4.
Definitely. My number 3 is Ready or Not. It was kind of I saw a lot of advertisements for it.
It's like that it's like where she gets married.
And has to play the hide and seek.
Play like a deadly game of hide and seek.
Yeah.
And if she survives, she gets to be in the family.
Yeah, it's that one. I was really interested in that because it seemed like a really fun kind of horror concept that it wasn't like looking like it's going to be a Blumhouse sort of thing where it's like cool concept, not great execution. it was actually something that looked very like stylized and really like interesting and could be kind of almost
I would be
funny.
curious to see what you think of it, because I didn't see it myself, but I like read up on it a lot because it was something I wanted to see. But I heard a lot. There's a lot of mixed feelings out there about it.
Yeah, I've heard some mixed feelings about it,
So,
but I still feel like it would be really entertaining to watch though. So I definitely would love to see it regardless, I guess. Yeah, that's all my thoughts on that.
number 3 for me would be Little Woman.
Would very much recommend.
Yeah.
Very much recommend.
I mean, I saw the trailer for it, and it was just really intriguing. So,
Yeah.
it's still in theaters, so I want to try and get around to seeing it before it tips out. So yeah, I
So,
don't have much else to say.
yeah,
Fair enough.
this is
Like, the
one of
wish list ones
categories
are-
that can kind of
yeah.
go quicker. My number 3 is Booksmart.
Very good.
It's
very
one of the
good.
films where the trailers came out, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. I don't know if I'll get around to seeing it, but it looks interesting. Then the reviews came out, and I was
Right.
like, wait, seriously? Oh.
You're like, oh,
Okay.
it's too late.
Yeah, and yeah, by that point I was like, well, I'm nose to the book type of thing, and or a script or something. Like, I can't
Yeah.
Yeah,
get
have the
away to
time.
see
I
it.
definitely
but,
recommend that.
yeah, and I like the actors in it a lot. So.
Yeah.
It's one of those, spoiler, it's not on my top 10, but it's one of those movies that I wish could have been on there, but like there was just too much other stuff that kind of, it slowly got pushed down the list. I'm sure at one point it was on there, but then over time it just kind of got pushed down.
Yeah. That's fair. You went to number 3. Okay, so my number 2 is the Peanut Butter Falcon.
Yes, that
Because-
was, oh
because
my god.
I really, really wanted to see it, but I just was busy with school, and that, now I'm starting to feel how you feel sometimes about certain movies, where it's like, I couldn't get to it because school, work, all that sort of thing.
highly recommend that. Please
Yes.
see it.
Because I don't think I've...
Did you see it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I've talked to a person yet who didn't like it.
So...
It is it's the sweetest film of the... It's up there, like, top 3
it's
sweetest
so
films.
like heartwarming.
Yes.
It is like just the principle behind it, and like the trailer itself is heartwarming enough, but then like to get the whole film with it,
Yeah.
and like it just feels so. It's such a happy. I
Yeah.
walked out of the theater with like the biggest smile on my face. I was just so happy.
Prior to
that's the
seeing
kind of
Honey
thing.
Boy, I was like, this is the best child performance I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Because his character is like... It's like what he'd been honing with kind of his other not as great roles.
Mm-hmm.
Only now he's like, oh no, you nailed it. Okay, that kind of character works. Wow.
Yeah.
And like the character arc of that character is so great.
Yeah. Honestly.
Like thinking about it, like my heart is warming up.
So
I can feel that, yeah.
So you just reminded me that Honey Boy came out in 2019.
Yes.
So that's an honorable mention because I totally forgot that film existed. But that would be on my wish list film if I would have remembered. I would have probably replaced like Bombshell or something. But then, so my number 2 film, which I saw the trailer for probably a long time ago, and it like slid under the radar, and I don't even remember it like seeing it releasing. But it's The Last Black Man in San Francisco.
Fuck yeah, dude.
The idea behind, like, when I saw the trailer, I was like, this film looks incredible. And I was like, I need to see this. And then I just never heard about it again, and I don't know what happened to it. But, yeah, that's all I have to say. The trailer looks absolutely phenomenal.
I won't say on it anything yet.
Okay. Good to know.
Alright.
So it's on his top 10 list.
So, my number 2 film is Jojo Rabbits.
Ooh. Yeah.
Because Taika Waititi is one of those directors. Actually, if I'm being totally honest, wasn't a huge fan of Thor Ragnarok, but I like what Taika Waititi brought to the character of Thor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I like a lot of Taika Waititi's other stuff he's done before and since then. And this was the films I saw the trailer for. And actually, before I saw the trailer, I saw the internet talking about it. I was like, oh, okay, Taika Waititi, new film, cool. Watched the trailer for it and was like, oh no, I get the hype. I'm more excited about this than I was Thor Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I love the concept, and I've seen a bunch of his interviews since then, and they only make me want to see it more and more, because this is a film he's been wanting to make for a long time.
Yeah,
But apparently studios don't want to make a comedy about Hitler.
Probably not, yeah.
I mean, with all due respect, you can't blame them. But.
Yeah.
Fair enough, but
like, I just, it's one of those movies that I just really wanted to see, but just didn't have the time to see when it was out.
Yeah.
And literally, the time to see it opened up, and I was like, cool, let me pull out my Fandango, and it's out of theaters. Damn it.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, really quick, before you go on to your number one film, I just looked it up right now. So, The Last Black Man in San Francisco only made $4 million in the box office, so I guess that's probably why I didn't hear about it.
It was only at, like, the Loft, really.
Oh,
That's
wow.
fair.
Because it was, like, it's a Sundance movie, which is,
Yeah.
like, basically nobody sees it.
Well,
Except
yeah,
the
it won
indie
2
crowd.
Sundance Awards.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My number one
Wishlist
is a bit weird because, I mean, it's technically coming out later. It just came out limited release. Was 1917, which I guess it's sort of awkward because it could be considered a 2020 film, but like, I fucking hate release dates.
Yeah.
Fuck release dates.
There's
That's
another
really
So,
film.
I'm going to be honest, I mentioned this in a different category because of
Yeah.
that very reason.
Well, I guess I'll discuss it more when we get there, so we
Okay.
can just move on. I say.
So, also on a side note, on that same similar, it's technically a 2019 release, but it's not really getting a wide release until 2020. I want to give like a shout out to Just Mercy.
That too. Yeah, that too.
Again, it's one of those
Yeah.
awkward, I don't know where you are films because obviously LA and New York got to see it already, but we didn't get to see it. So,
Fuck yeah, I was in New York.
but on my number one list right here is The Irishman.
Yeah.
I thought I was trying to get around to seeing it before the podcast, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and I don't blame you
It's
for
just
the
a
likes.
huge
Like,
time
that's
commitment.
a commitment.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I'll see it sometime this year. So,
Yeah.
we'll see.
So, my number one wish list film of 2019 is Uncut Gems. And that sound tells me and you, the audience, exactly what you need to know about that one. So,
We'll be talking
Yeah.
about it later.
Soon.
yeah, for so many reasons. But that is my number one wish list movie. of
With all due
2019.
respect.
That's all due respect. So for the best, are we doing 10?
Top
We're
10.
going to do a top 10 for the best movies
I
of
have
2019.
2 honorable mentions that I'll like briefly just mention, but then we'll have 10. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think all of our lists are going
gonna
to
be-
look different.
They could have some overlap, but they're
I don't think the placement.
no. The
will be
placement's not
much
going to be, but
overlap.
movies
Movies,
could
I think, will
overlap a little.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
but I think our placements are going to be very different. Because mine, I'll say right now, has a very large bias to it.
That's fair, yeah.
With all due respect.
Also, for my list, I'm not going to be talking about my actual number one of the year just because I've talked about it so much.
JQ Film Award.
Yeah, you guys know what it is by this point. It's
Mhm.
not... I've talked about it to death, so why even bother? So I've got, like... The other films are actual, like, list placement, but I just wanted to, like, put that out there. It's more, not as much, like, my concrete top 10 at the moment, but more just the films I really love and want to talk about to some extent.
Okay. Also, just for my clarification, once we get to like towards the number one, can you like just tell me what your number one was? So
He's going to tell you very soon because I just fixed my list for something.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'll talk
That's
about it
fine.
soon then.
number.
Alright, so... Oh yeah, that's me, number 10. Let me get it up again. So for my number 10 is A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, the kind of Mr. Rogers film, and
Yep.
it was one of those things where like I knew I was gonna really like it going in, but I was just very happy with the direction it took. Like
Yes, I agree completely.
and just the little stylistic choices that like it could have very easily been a very dry kind of biopic drama, but like very purposeful stylistic choice, not like style in your face or anything like that. It's very nice and purposeful, and it's really gets to the essence of Mr. Rogers rather than just his life. Because we already have a documentary that does that, so you have
Yeah.
a perfect companion piece for that, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful movie. I recommend to everyone. All right.
Okay.
Dylan, what you got?
So my 2 honorable mentions really quick. At number 12, I have Blinded by the Light. I mean, I just there's not much I can really say about it. I just really enjoyed it, and I'm still not 100% sure why, but like it's stuck in my head, and it has just to get mentioned for that purpose only.
Fair enough.
Number 11, despite all the like controversy and despite people not liking it and everything else, I really enjoyed Goldfinch.
Goldfinch, yeah.
And then at number 10, I also have A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood as well.
Oh, sweet! I wasn't anticipating that. Dang.
Yeah.
No, I thoroughly enjoyed that film. Like, again, it was probably the second most like heart-lifting film for me, behind A Peanut Butter Falcon. So
I'm gonna be honest. My number 10 was A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, but I just changed it because I somehow forgot a film.
So basically,
Luke
got pushed down to 11.
There's no way I should have been able to forget.
So basically, there's A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood got pushed down to 10 or 11.
Yeah. Okay. But my number 10 is The Lighthouse.
That was my number one
film.
So, yeah, The Lighthouse was a film that I didn't know what to expect going into it. In fact, I saw it with Luke.
Yeah.
And while I was watching it, I feel like my jaw was just dropped the whole time, in both awe and like what is happening.
Full black and white.
It is full black and white, shot in like kind of like an old aspect ratio, 35mm film sort of thing,
with phenomenal performances and cinematography.
Some of my favorites too, honestly.
Like the lobster sequence.
The lobster sequence is so good.
It's incredible. It's
so incredible because it's like, it's so perfectly is like hilarious, terrifying, and kind of just like wow, like wow.
Interesting.
And it's kind of one of those things like it's super specific in its style. Like I kept saying in the J3 Film Awards. It knows. I remember the director saying like he chose kind of more like the look and atmosphere of his films before he writes a story for it, and that's
which came through.
Yeah, which absolutely came through here because it was developed purposefully for the setting and.
So, do you think it wins any awards?
I could see it, but it's also very niche.
It is, yeah.
That's why it's not any.
So it might not win for that purpose only, since it's not really for everybody.
Yeah,
because I mean, it only made $12 million at the box office.
Feels like an awful comparison. It feels like Cats in the way that Cats is made for a very small specific audience. The Lighthouse also feels like it's made for a very small specific audience. The difference is the technicality.
Yeah. What is the audience for The Lighthouse?
Me,
Luke. It's insane.
It is like a literal dive into insanity.
I feel like I'm on drugs watching it, but not in like a other film that I could watch and say I felt like I was on drugs. 6 Underground, I could say that for.
Yeah.
This movie was like beautiful in the weirdest way ever.
Yeah, it is like grotesque, but like just mystifying in a way.
And to the point where I've heard you and other people say it's a blank genre film. I watched it and I have not a clue what genre it is.
Yeah. It's like it's technically a horror film, but like there's so much more to it than that. It's like it's kind of it's not a horror film, but it definitely feels like a nightmare.
I could put it into a tone more likely than I could put it into a genre.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
The tone is drunken, scared rambling.
Yeah. Like a drunk nightmare. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not. I think like changing it from being on drugs to being like drunk, but you're in an uncomfortable environment.
Drunk's probably a better thing than drugs for comparison.
Yeah.
Because I'm also just remembering the whole mermaid.
Yeah, the fucking mermaid scene.
Like, that just totally came back to me when you said nightmare.
Yeah.
Of like, I remember watching it going, what the fuck? What? That's in a movie?
Yeah, pretty much.
How is that in a movie?
It's the funniest thing because it's like, I don't know if I mentioned this, but when we were walking out of the theater, I realized like I think it was like Abominable was playing to the theater right next to us, and I thought how like imagine a kid walking into this theater by accident and just seeing something like that and just
Interesting.
It's my number 10.
One of a kind.
2019. Absolutely one of a kind.
Yeah, like, you'll probably never see something like this again for a while.
Your number 9 film of 2019.
Oh, yeah. is the dirt. I'm just kidding. Is Parasite, which is foreign language film, but like a lot of people have been seeing it recently, so it's kind of like I didn't want to talk about like super obscure stuff, but this was one that has been kind of doing the rounds. And I mean, for one thing, I've loved the director's previous work a lot, and I was just interested to see like what this was because it's been like getting super crazy praise.
So it's not in English at all.
It's
No,
a
it's
South Korean.
subtitled.
It's a South Korean film.
Yeah. So Parasite's one of those movies that I like, and it's technically better than most of my other movies I have on this list. But yeah, it's a really interesting film.
It really is. It's like the strangest thing is we've been talking about films that had the issue of feeling like a whole bunch of different films in one, whereas this one does that, but it feels right.
Which,
honestly,
I'll say I think it's not a problem I have with the film. It was just while I was watching it, the transitions kind of tripped me up. It's like, oh, we're in this now. Oh, okay, cool.
I can get that. Yeah. That happened to me on my first watch, but after a second watch, I was kind of able to kind of settle into it a bit better, I'd say.
Yeah, but the acting in it was one of those films that I was told about and told don't watch a trailer, just go into it blind, and I'm glad I did, because I think the first act is my favorite part of the film, because I think that's so interesting, because any other film would have played that first act from the opposite angle.
Yeah.
It's like I complained about Knives Out and how kind of I thought that perspective switch hurt some of the tension. Whereas this did that same kind of perspective switch, but it worked.
Yeah, like it works to the better benefit of it. Yeah, I can definitely agree with that too.
So Parasite is not on my list, but it is, I think, better than some of the films that are. I'll say
it's more just personal.
There are just other ones that kind of resonated with me a bit more.
Yeah, and that's absolutely fair, honestly.
And maybe because it's a foreign film that it could
maybe
be
I think the
wrong.
performances are great.
I love it was Song Kang Ho is his name, but like the guy who plays the dad of the family.
The dad's my favorite.
I'd
character.
honestly be curious to see. Not that I haven't seen it, but I'd also be curious to see like what someone who actually speaks the language would think of it.
Yeah, like what because
you watch it having to read the subtitles versus actually understanding what they're saying. You understand like language has so much dialogue and like tone with the way you say it. You can like obviously you can try and predict what the tone like how they're saying it and what it means, but like you're not going to truly know unless you speak the language.
Yeah, and
I'd be curious to see.
And and there's also some of the emotion can be kind of lost in translation, whereas like you're reading subtitles and things might seem kind of bit blunt in what they're trying to say, but like if it's someone who's probably in that language, like it's much more there's much more subtlety maybe going on.
Yeah. Although it's funny, when I was watching it, I didn't realize it till the final scene of the film. I had seen trailers for it and just totally forgot.
Oh, really? Huh.
Because I was like, oh, that shot.
Oh. when like the climax is going on.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, now I remember. But it was
it all came back.
Yeah, but it was one of those films to where I do think that it's a great film.
Gotcha. So my number 9, which is kind of probably is going to be a surprise to you guys, would be Detective Pikachu.
Valid choice. I'd say valid choice.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like.
Especially as a video game movie.
As a video game movie, it was so well. I think it's probably the best video game movie that we've seen in a good amount of time.
Yeah.
And obviously it has its flaws and stuff, but I think a lot of its pros outweigh those cons. And for that purpose, and can we just talk about Detective Pikachu?
Yeah.
He looks so well done.
He does, honestly.
Like, even all the other Pokemon, they look well done too. But just him, he was literally in, I'd say, 95% of the shots on the film, and he looks like he belongs in every single one of them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Which is, when that trailer released, I was worried that they focused on just the scenes for the trailer, and that he was going to fit well in those, and that at some point in the film, there was going to be a place where he didn't belong. Like, where it didn't look like he fit in.
Yeah.
And there was none of that. And I have to give him a lot of respect for that.
Honestly, like, that is something that I think is really admirable, because, like, especially for such an effects-driven film, it can be, like, prioritizing what is
and they
looking
captured the essence of Pikachu so well.
They did, honestly.
Like, if you think back, I don't know how many people have watched it, but like if you think back to like the animated Pokemon shows, you literally captured the essence. You literally don't have anything to work off of because Pikachu doesn't talk, but you still managed to capture that, like, pure, innocent Pikachu essence and put it into this and allow him to still talk and not ruin him.
Yeah, and talk is Ryan Reynolds, one of the most recognizable voices
Ryan
of all time.
Reynolds. This is so good.
Yeah, and I think one of my notes is, it kind of did what I was hoping Sword and Shield would do for me, is it's one of those movies that I think
So
Pokemon fans will watch and go like, oh man, I feel satisfied. But then people who don't know Pokemon and kids can watch them and be like, I want to get the new Pokemon game and I want to dive into this world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I give them a lot of credit for that, and I think that's why I made this list. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not a perfect movie by any means, and we talked about that, but it still does so much right that my Pokemon heart in me, it makes it on this list.
Yeah.
That's fair, honestly. It's such a fun film.
Yeah, exactly. It's just overall fun. Like, it's literally, like, you could see it by yourself if you're a Pokemon fan. You could see it with your family because it's totally family friendly, really. Granted, it has some, like, minor adult humor, which I really love. Which I think the adult humor was, like, it's not overdone, and it's a nice addition.
Yeah,
and
it's enough for the older Pokemon fans.
It's enough for the older Pokemon fans and enough to keep, like, parents who are taking their kids, like, okay, that was good, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
like,
so, yeah.
A good little joke there.
Yeah.
Number 9.
My number 9 is a film I just had to do a Google search on a little while ago just to make sure, because it's kind of confusing. It's a film that came out in one place 2017 but got U.S. released 2019.
Oh, God,
and I think it's based on I know it's based on another version, but it is The Upside.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is one of, if not my favorite, Kevin Hart performance. And I think Bryan Cranston also did a good job in it. And it's one of those films that, kind of like what we talked about with Peanut Butter Falcon, it makes me feel happy. And it's like, it's one of those things where I wouldn't have guessed those two actors could have that kind of chemistry, but they had that kind of chemistry, which I don't think it would have worked if they didn't.
Since you enjoyed that film so much, you need to watch Kevin Hart's documentary.
Yeah, I'll watch that.
Do they talk about the film in there? Oh, dang, that's cool.
Like, literally everything he's done since... Probably, like, obviously it has a little bit of early stuff, but then, like, once, like, I'd say 2017 hits, it's basically just a movie of his life since then.
Yeah,
so.
But, like, the seriousness he's able to bring to that role was unlike anything I'd seen from him prior. Even in moments when he had serious moments, there are nothing like this character in The Upside.
So I think, going off of that, so it doesn't make my list, but overall, I think the reason that this film... 1, is on your list, and 2, I think it deserves more recognition than it really got, because I don't think it did that well at the box office. No. But the way, like, without those performances, the film isn't the same. The film isn't the film. And I think Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston did a phenomenal job, which I think on that note, like, I can respect your decision for it being on there because of that alone.
Which I think my biggest problem with them, remember now, is the pacing. Like, it has this, like, it has this one scene, and it's, like, 6 months earlier, or a year and a half earlier.
Yeah, no, and
I think it should have started there.
It has problems. The story, even the story itself, could be viewed as a little flat. Like, it doesn't have much going. It's like it's like a stereotypical story.
It's very relationship driven on these characters.
It's
event-wise.
It's like this happens, and then you're like, okay, well, this obviously happens next, and this it's a predictable film, but still, like you said, the performance is out of the water.
But yeah, so that was my choice for number 9.
Stall for 8 really quick so I can go to the bathroom. Or you can say your 8, but just take it. Don't rush through it.
Okay. Well, that's good, because I know that Nick mentioned it in his wish list, so might be able to engage in for a little bit. My number 8 is Booksmart, which it was one of those things where it's like I saw the trailers for it and heard all the praise, but was still skeptical, just because I've been bad with, like, high school films. There's only been, like, a couple that I've really enjoyed, like Lady Bird and Edge of 17 or 2 that I can think of. So I was, like, I wasn't fully on board with it, and I was just like, I don't know how to feel about this. Then I went in and saw it, and I fucking had an amazing time. It was probably might be my favorite high school film of the decade. I think Lady Bird is still probably my favorite, but like this one.
Oh wow! So for you, kind of is on Lady Bird level.
Yeah, it's almost on Lady Bird level, but it's a much different thing because it's like it's very much kind of like Superbad essentially.
Okay.
In that and like its kind of style and humor because it's very much like a one night trying to get to a certain location doing these certain things and all the crazy things that happen from it, and it could have been very easily just a very kind of brash sort of like comedy sort of thing, and its comedy is fantastic, but there's still sort of like the little nuances where it understands high school. It was the perfect time because this was literally like days before or days after graduation, and I was just like, there's characters where they played a trope, like the kind of trope like the jock and that sort of thing, but there's actual nuance behind it and a lot of depth behind it, and there was like one point where it's like that totally gets this aspect of like high school life very well. Kind of the big thing is how
about Booksmart?
Yeah, Booksmart, and the big thing was like all the characters sort of have some semblance of like a superiority complex, but like by the end of the day they realize they're all sort of on an equal playing field, that everyone kind of has their own sort of thing, and it wasn't just like a PSA level like trying to get that across. It was very genuine. And it gets the awkwardness very well. It gets sort of the regret of everything high school, like once you get to graduation, like the what's it called, not the senior slump, but like that point in your last year when you're just like, oh gosh, remembering everything the last few years and just realizing why bother. It perfectly like captures that as a film, and that's why I really love it, honestly. And it's just entertaining and genuinely kind of emotional at points. Would really recommend.
Number 8.
Yep.
Which is probably the most controversial film that I have on here, which would be Knives Out.
Okay.
That almost made my list.
I see where you guys are in all of our discussion about it, because there has been a lot of discussion about it, I see different perspectives on it. But for me, it felt refreshing enough to allow me to overlook some of the flaws of the film.
That's very fair.
Because like some of the flaws of the film that you pointed out, to me, got pushed to the back burner because this was something so fresh. Which is something that, like I said, I if you can give us something fresh and make it even 75% good, it's gonna be, it's still good. Like, I'd rather a 75% fresh film than like an 85% we've seen this 100 times film. So it's like, yes, it has its problems, yes, everything else, but it was just something so fresh that
yeah,
I can definitely get behind that.
Kind of funny because I feel like my next choice is also very controversial, because I think most people I've talked to either felt meh about this movie or didn't like it, whereas for some reason, and I honestly don't know why, I liked it, because when I saw the trailers and went into the movie, I was like, this is gonna be cheesy, this is gonna be an okay film at best, and then I left going, I really liked that. And it's Yesterday.
Oh yeah, Yesterday, I forgot about that.
Yeah, which I went into it with very low expectations, but actually got on board with the characters, the premise, and how they played with the premise. I think they could have played with it more, but they played with it enough for me to feel satisfied with it.
Fair enough.
And also, there wasn't a whole lot of conflict with it. The conflict wasn't with the premise at all. It was with the love story.
Yeah.
But I was engaged with the love story enough that I could be less disappointed with the conflict around the premise.
Yeah, definitely.
But it was a film that I actually really enjoyed from the year.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a fun film, I'd say, and kind of good feel good.
For me, it's definitely a fun film, but to me, I felt like they were trying to push the love story a little bit too much. I think I think this is where it should have been. I think for me at least, it just went a tad too far. I think they wanted that love story to be able to, one, pull in a second audience, just because that's never a bad thing, and two, just to well, if we're lacking in this, maybe if we have a side love story, it'll just make it so that more people like it. Which, I mean, I'm not complaining. I just wish it felt like there was just a tad bit too much focus on the love story side. I would have rather that little bit more been focused towards the main story, but it was still a good time. Which
I think is very fair, and I think would have made for a better movie. But I was on board with the love story enough.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Where I was like, I'm enjoying the moments where the love story is there. It would have been nice if they compensated more with the actual premise. But the other thing I liked about it was way more stylized than I thought it would be. Like, some of the cinematography in there, I was like, oh, wow, this person has some confidence and some competency. Okay. With the camera.
I think that probably helps from it being directed by Danny Boyle, who did 127 Hours, Slumdog Millionaire, and sort of.
Yeah.
Also the good Steve Jobs biopic, not the Ashton Kutcher one.
Yeah. But.
So I can respect it, but that's where
Yeah. All right, Luke.
What number are we at now?
7.
7 is The Farewell. Have you guys heard of that?
Yes,
I've heard of it.
I
did not see.
I've seen the majority of it.
Gotcha. It was one of those things where it's like, it was one of the things I missed at Sundance, and so I definitely wanted to check it out because everyone said it was really great. And I liked it a lot when I first watched it, and it was like, it's definitely a great film, but I liked it more with thought and kind of cared into as I mentioned, sort of the screenplay behind it is very fantastic, honestly.
That's interesting. Because I've seen it more recently, so maybe I haven't gotten to that point yet, I wonder.
Fair enough, yeah. It's one of those things where it's definitely kind of ages better with time, I'd say, because it's like...
Is it another one of those niche audience films? Or no?
I'd say it's marketable to a lot more people than something like The Lighthouse.
Yeah, and the premise of it is that this girl kind of goes to her family and find out that her grandma is dying, but the family doesn't want to tell the grandma so she can die living her normal life, essentially.
Without them treating her differently?
Yeah, so they essentially staged this wedding, which is really a funeral so family can come say goodbye to her, but she doesn't know that.
Yeah, that's the plot of it, essentially.
And based off a true story.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, it's
that's crazy.
It's kind of edited in a way where it's about a different person, but it's more or less kind of slightly autobiographical from the filmmaker's perspective. But it's very not super stylized. There's little things that are kind of interesting here and there, but it's sort of the modesty of the filmmaking behind it that made it work so well, because it's not a sweeping emotional epic. The emotion is very much in kind of just the subtleties of it, the performances.
And Awkwafina.
Yeah, Awkwafina is fantastic in the film, and even the grandma's also just amazing. She is pretty much great in every scene because she has this warm energy, but is also kind of very naive about it too.
You just warmed my heart. I forget what they're doing in that scene, but it's literally just a scene of them making sounds.
Oh yeah, they were doing an exercise routine.
Yeah.
She was saying if you do this, your heart will kind of.
That was such a great scene.
Have better blood pressure, or something like that. And they're just doing kind of it was a breathing technique as they were doing this sort of thing, and they're just laughing with each other, and little moments like that. It's not crucial to the plot, but it's just it gets you into the emotions of it more than any sort of story elements would have.
And I found the cinematography and color grading to be interesting.
Yeah, it's very it's not super specific, but it's something that's really purposeful, in the use of blues and kind of. Yeah, the headspace and certain shots.
It's not flat color-wise, but it also has this kind of white feeling which reflects kind of the main character throughout the film.
Yeah. It's a very, it's kind of one of those, I'm trying to think the best way to describe it. It's flat in a way that works for the film.
Yeah.
In a way that, kind of captures the tone very well. Mm-hmm. And it's great because it has goes from comedy to sort of drama, sadder moments very fluidly, and it's definitely, and it's something I'd recommend to everyone because it's PG and not super R-rated or anything like that somehow.
Good to know. Yeah. So at number 7 for me, after a last second change, is going to be Spider-Man: Far From Home. So part of the reason, there's one main reason this film makes this list, and it's that one scene. the train scene.
Mm.
That whole fight sequence leading up to the train scene. That alone, to me, without that scene, the film's not even in the top 10 for me.
Mm-hmm. Without that scene, that movie's not great to me, but I love that scene.
Yeah.
That scene to me, that's why. That's all I'm saying. That's why that scene is on there.
It ties it kind of the rest of the film together.
And it even pains me putting it above Knives Out. I would almost rather put it above, put Knives Out above it, but
just for that scene,
it's so. It's my second favorite scene from this year.
That's cool.
Because I'm personally not a big fan of that movie, but I think that movie did a lot of good things, and that scene is
definitely one
incredible.
It was that scene, and then the Tom Holland Zendaya kiss for me.
Yeah, that was such a genuine scene too.
Yeah. And I also think
I've been waiting for that.
And I also think the director feels a lot more confident in this film than Homecoming.
I think
he makes some more choices.
So he makes some more choices, and I think he makes more choices, but then he also plays it safe in some aspects, which is I think why some of the other film hurts and lacks. But he's learning, and this was kind of one of his stepping stone films. I feel, which is good because usually stepping stones from small stones mean she's getting to larger stones. Hopefully,
yeah, definitely.
But that's the main reason why it makes this list.
Yeah. So my next one,
Number 7,
is The Irishman.
Ooh,
which
very good.
Wow, it's a 3.5 hour film that feels shorter than a lot of the 2.5 hour films I've seen this year.
Yeah,
fair enough.
And it's very Scorsese. Yeah, and what it does, it feels. Something about it feels so fresh.
Yeah. It's a genre that is almost tied directly to his name in a way, but it's the way that he approaches it is very purposeful.
Yeah, in the cast, De Niro, Pesci,
and
Pacino.
Yeah,
they all rock it.
Yeah, they're all
at different stages of their character's life as well.
Yeah, absolutely too. I also just love some of even the minor characters, some of the people that they talk to, freaking the character that Al Pacino is always arguing with for the entire film. I can't remember his name though, but those little small characters are even really memorable.
Yeah.
Also, should I just essentially talk about it too, since it's overlapping at some point in my list, or should I talk about it later?
You could you could either talk about it now, or you can wait until that point in your list if you want to keep some suspense going on.
Yeah, I think I might keep the suspense up.
Alright, sounds good. But I just really like it so much in how it handles those characters and the relationships and even the period piece elements where you can watch and go oh, that was the Bay of Pigs. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just the, and also just the clear kind of somewhat unnoticeable transition throughout the decades.
Yeah, and it's also a movie that, Scorsese does this all the time, but it really shows it that narration can be done right.
It really can.
A lot of films do it wrong though.
Yeah, I think the little choices in terms of even the character at that point of his life when he's narrating, you kind of hear him stammering at some points, talking about certain things, and that lends a lot more kind of weight to some of the sequences that he's talking about.
Yeah, and it's so much happens in that film because it's about the life of this character. But it's there's so many memorable moments that I could imagine cutting any more of it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a 3.5 hour film, but there's nothing where I'm just
cut this.
So not all of it may not necessarily be necessary
or grand scheme contributing,
but the moment itself lends to the overall feeling of the film and everything else about it.
Which I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, honestly.
Good to know.
All right, now we're on to 6.
Yes.
My number 6 is Little Women. It's probably the best feel-good film of the year from what I've seen so far. I haven't seen Peanut Butter Falcon, so I can't be can't be the total authority on that. But it's my personal favorite because it's one of those things that doesn't shy away from sad moments at all. It's not a feel-good movie just of wonderful life for moments. It's just the just kind of the struggle of these characters from in childhood and contrasting it with them in adulthood, kind of, like the sort of the broken promises, the broken dreams, and all that. But like the ending note is just such a wonderful end note to leave on, and it reminds me. It is the director's previous film, Lady Bird. It essentially kind of gives me the same feeling. But it's much more pronounced. I feel like it has editing issues at times, but and they should be somewhat big enough for me to be that's a detractor for the whole film. But the overall emotion and the performances and writing are just so good, and that's why I'm able to even overlook those elements. And it's just a wonderful film, and I'd recommend it very highly to everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 6 for me is Queen and Slim.
Oh, dang.
So, it has some of my favorite performances of the year in it. I would like to see some nominations go out to them for it. It does have some slight issues with it, but there's one scene, there's one particular payoff moment that wraps some of the film together, and I think that moment, which I don't really want to say because I don't want to spoil it for you,
Gotcha.
which it ultimately isn't really that much of a spoiler, but it's just so satisfying once you hit that point that I'm yes please.
Fair enough.
But I would like to see them get some nominations. I don't think they would win off of the nominations, but I think out of respect for them, they deserve the nominations.
Definitely.
Number 6.
So my number 6 is Joker, which was actually, I believe, my second most anticipated movie of last year, something like that. But the movie I was really looking forward to that ended up really good. It wasn't quite as good as I was hoping it would be, but I still think they did a killer job with it. Joaquin Phoenix rocked it.
He definitely did, honestly.
If it was anyone else but him, I don't think the movie would be half as good.
Really, yeah.
But Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips took such a great take on the Joker, to the fact where it was more of an Arthur Fleck movie than a Joker movie. It was a statement on mental health, and I just found that whole side of it fascinating.
It felt really refreshing.
Yes,
yeah,
very refreshing.
And I'll talk about it a little bit more later, but...
One thing I can say is, I think for the kinds of themes that it tackles, it's actually really surprising for, a major release film.
Yeah.
It's surprising me now it's the highest grossing R-rated film of all time. I would have expected something like Deadpool to probably do that because it's more lighthearted humor. This is uncomfortable as fuck for the entire runtime.
But like we said, it does have that important message.
Yeah,
mental health is so important, and it doesn't get enough recognition. And the fact that they took such a major film that they knew people were going to see regardless, and took the chance to, like you said, it is basically a mental awareness film.
Yeah. It's and then also kind of it's almost even integral to the plot. The mental health institute that's helping him is basically being underfunded, and you can see how that is influenced by the other elements of Gotham City at that time, with the Wayne character, being his influences on the mental health institute and all that, and you see sort of even for a film I'm not necessarily is one of my personal favorites. I love the little intricacies of the messaging there, because there's some stuff I'm not so crazy about it, but that is something I feel is actually very well done though.
Yeah, and I love the idea of society creating the Joker.
Yeah,
it's such a cool concept.
Yeah. It's is it the one bad day sort of thing, kind of ranked up to an extreme.
The one bad day, and then it spirals and keeps spiraling.
One bad year, man.
Then it turns into one bad life, man, basically.
It's one bad day, but there was a lot that created that. It wasn't just out of nowhere.
Yeah, and the tension in the talk show scene.
Oh my gosh!
Drove me insane watching it.
I'm
like, do it already, just
Please.
do it, just do it.
We all know it's gonna happen, and
no, it was so obviously we knew it was gonna happen, but the tension was still there. And the fact is when you can build tension in a scene that everybody knows what's going to happen, you did a fantastic job with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if it's predictable, most of the time the tension's not there. But this time it was predictable, and the tension was still there.
The tension was, when is he going to do it?
Yeah.
It's like you wanted to look away, but you wanted to keep watching.
It's like looking at a time bomb about to go off. It's like...
But you can't
But you don't get the timer.
Yeah, you can't... Yeah, exactly. It's just
like... The display on the timer is broken, so...
Pretty much.
Number 5.
Number 5 for me is... Let me check.
Bigger stuff.
And is Uncut Gems. So... Yeah, like, I was honestly excited for this the minute I knew it was coming out, just because I love the director's other films, and... I was a bit worried that their style wouldn't really keep once they were getting into much bigger releases, since this one had a bigger budget than their previous film. But I'm so happy to see that they basically have just kept it intact, even probably like amplified it a bit more, because they're known for essentially creating anxiety-inducing like thrillers, essentially, and this one is nothing but that. It's something that, like, I understand why some people couldn't probably get into it, because it's, like, just, like, nerve-wracking.
I agree, it's not for everybody, but for the people who like these types of films, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty killer, honestly, and it's just, like, it isn't, like, a story where the plot is, like, very laid out and it's, like, has all these, like, very... easy to go off of like bits of story moments. It's kind of more just just seeing events happen. It doesn't feel as like planned. It feels the entire film feels very like almost fly on the wall at times.
So going off of that, I think what he's also trying to get at is like the film feels like it's happening as you're watching it.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely how it feels, and it
feels like you're watching it and they're like there's such moments where you feel like it could, like, the decision could be made either way. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, like, there's the possibility of, the director said, like, do this to make it feel more authentic, or maybe it just happened like that. Like, there's just certain scenes that I think of very specifically.
Just please see it, man. That's all we have to say.
Very much would recommend it. I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on it.
I'd love to sit down and talk about it once we had all seen it.
Yeah. And, that's my number 5.
My number 5 film, which from our previous discussions could also be a little bit shocking to you guys, would be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I get that, yeah.
I don't know, like, it was, to me, going into it, I was worried about it not being memorable, but to me, it was memorable, but not for the reasons that it should be memorable.
Fair enough.
Like, and it has problems, like, the pacing feels a little off to me at times and stuff like that, but, like, I can overlook it because, to me, the pros that I see in the film are more important to me than the stuff that isn't so good about it.
Yeah, understandable. I think it's, for me, I was a little bit underwhelmed by it, but I'm almost certain that it was just I wasn't in the right mindset of what this film was going to be.
Well, and like we have talked about it, there's characters that don't need to be in there.
Yeah. Definitely.
Which we've talked about several times now. But, again, I can overlook it because...
Yeah, like the style and all that.
The style of it.
Yeah.
The cast of it. There's enough of it I can overlook.
Well, for me, it does.
And I knew it wasn't going to be on either of your lists, but I had to give it some respect.
I need to rewatch it at some point to kind of get a better sense of it, honestly.
For me, it does something Dunkirk does in the way it's like, to me, it doesn't feel like a film. It feels like an experience. Like you're really just like experiencing these two characters' lives.
It's kind of like a hangout film almost in a way, but like a very like intricate hangout film.
I'm friends with these characters, and this is just a day or days in their lives.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think at that, it's great.
Yeah, no, definitely.
That is my number 5 film for 2019.
So, my number 5, and I think for all my top 5, if you guys mention it, I might just be quiet and then talk about
there's some of the films that are on my list that we have already been mentioned, but I'm just kind of saving myself.
But my number 5 film is Peanut Butter Falcon.
Yeah.
I really loved that film. For a while throughout the year, that was actually my number one. But it's such a pleasant film, and the performances in it are awesome. I think the writing's great. It's so awesome, and I dig everything about it.
So going off of that again, it's such a happy, heartwarming film. And then they got, like, as much as I want to put it on here, like, to me the story's, it works well for what the film is. But I feel like the story is kind of, I don't want to say necessarily dull, but it's kind of just like very...
It's the travel film. These characters going from point A to point B. And that's the whole film.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, they experience this along the way, this along the way, this along the way, which is a travel film. And from that aspect, it's like, we've seen it, done it. But to me, like, the heartwarming aspect and what the film does redeems that. But I think also it just being another travel film is what brought it down on my list. It would definitely be in, like, if I could put it in its own category, I would. It's just up against a lot of competition.
There's a lot of great films this year, yeah.
Like this, it's like, I was looking back at last year's list as well, and I remember having trouble with some anticipated films for the year. But, like, now that the film's over with, now that the year's over with, I should not have had trouble with the film, with the list at all.
Yeah.
But I definitely can respect that.
Yeah. Alright, so now we're on to 4?
Yes, number 4 film of 2019.
My number 4 is Midsommar, the new Ari Aster horror film. Okay, so Uncut Gems was very close to me for, like, what I would call the anxiety-inducing, painful experience that I loved. This was the king of that. This fucking hurt in many different ways, because it's like, I was sort of expecting that because Hereditary, his previous film, had a lot of the same sort of thing to it. But it was a lot more accessible, I'd say, in the sense that, like, it has the kind of, the possession horror elements and kind of like that sort of thing. This is not really a horror film. It's more like a nightmarish breakup film, actually. It's like, it's like dealing with, like, a specific subject matter that's, like, I mean, a lot of people probably dealt with before, but, like, elevating it to, like, this strange, uncomfortable level, I'd say. And it's one of those things, I think even more so than Uncut Gems, where it's like, I find it hard to really recommend to everyone, because there are some certain sequences in this film where I'm just like, I'm really just kind of watching this in a multiplex with, like, regular people right now. I don't know how to feel about this.
I will say, so I didn't see it, but from the trailers, I can definitely attest to the fact that I don't think it's for everybody.
No. Let me just say, there's some segments where...
The trailers made me really uneasy.
That is just...
And that seems like what the whole film is.
The entire film is definitely that. Like, there's like, certain moments where there's, like, a kind of violent sequence happens, but, like, in other horror films, it sort of, like, passes through you, like, what not. This is one of the few times where it's genuinely nauseated by it, but not, like, so much so where it's like, I can't watch this anymore, but more like, it engaged me more with, like, the themes that the film was going for, because it wasn't just gratuitous, it was for the sake of the story, I'd say, and it definitely pushes the R rating at times, I'll say that, but...
It seemed like I would have problems driving home.
No, God, no. I'd have...
Don't see it at night?
Don't see it in the morning, either.
Don't see it at all, okay.
I mean, yeah, pretty much.
Just don't see it.
It's not, like, scary, it's more, like, deeply unsettling kind of stuff, but
good to know. I
love the thematic stuff in it, and the ending scene is kind of awe-inspiring, not gonna lie. But again, it leaves that, like, sunken feeling by the end of it, but it's just so well done. And that's my number 4 pick.
My number 4 pick is only on here because of what it does, is Endgame. Which, obviously, without the other 22 films, and without everything, it's the payoff. Like, that's the reason it's on this list, is that payoff, what the film does, and just concluding such a saga of films. That, yeah. I don't know what else to say. I mean, we've talked about Endgame probably 100 hours by now. Like, we've talked about it enough. where my thoughts are out there on the internet.
Pretty much.
But yeah, I mean, it's not. It has flaws. It's a film, like that kind of stuff. But again,
yeah. And I'm gonna be honest. You just convinced me. I moved it. Yeah, Endgame is also my number 4.
Was it higher before?
It was number 3. But as you're talking about, I was like, yeah, I'll flip it.
Yeah,
But
it's like, yeah,
it's a phenomenal payoff to the past 22.
but without the payoff, I don't know if it's on my top 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But as a Marvel fan at heart, like, it's on there because of that.
Yeah, and I feel like it's what Rise of Skywalker should have could have been if it had a better trilogy.
Yeah, definitely. My thoughts on it are like really love the first third, which is like the build up with like the characters like experiencing this. I'm not as big of a fan of like the middle chunk where they're doing the time travel heist sort of thing because it does get a bit tedious. But that final act is fucking legendary.
The final act is a cinematic moment like that. To me will go down as like one of the greatest cinematic acts of all time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could definitely agree with you. Like the time traveling bit,
which it was more so nostalgia of like, oh, I remember that movie.
Well, and that's what they were going for. They weren't going for this is going to be phenomenal, but just
like
it's to remember. It's just basically a travel back down memory road. Oh, you were here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's good self-reflection. I just kind of have some issue with like the way that certain characters are handled.
It was purposeful time travel, but again, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's why I think Infinity War is a better film
overall.
Yeah, as a standalone piece.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it really does deserve some of the merits that is given to it.
All right, Luke, what you got?
For number 3 is The Last Black Man in San Francisco. It's one of those kinds of films where it's like, you have like a director has like a very specific style, like we were talking about with like Michael Bay, like Martin Scorsese, and it feels so refreshing to just out the gate, director's first film, feel like they have a style, like a very specific approach, because there's almost like a surreal kind of storybook element to some of the film, but there's still like the very realistic element to it, showing the city and all that sort of thing. But there's it's strangely kind of like a heightened reality.
What's called? This film has a very niche audience, right?
Sort of, yeah, I'd say so. It's kind of one of those things, like, it's not... I'd say I'd recommend it to people, but I don't know if it would be everyone.
Would enjoy it.
Yeah. Like, it's not with Midsummer where I'd kind of find it hard to recommend it to anyone at all. It's, like... It's definitely, like, a good drama, and it's got like really good, like, very low-key performances in it, and it's beautifully shot, like very, very beautifully shot, and I love the editing behind it. Like, just the opening montage in general with like the speech that's going on behind it is amazing, and it's probably one of the best debuts I've seen in years, honestly. So that's why it's my number 3.
So my number 1 is solidified. My number 2 and 3 could be interchangeable, but I think it just depends because I haven't had enough time to sit with it. So my number 3 right now is Uncut Gems.
Good stuff.
It's just wild. I mean, pretty much. It's a film that does so many things that haven't been done in a long time. There's a lot of choices made that I'm glad were taken.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't imagine the film without them, but there's some ballsy choices made in this film.
Yeah.
Adam Sandler.
Yeah, like, actually, like, that...
Adam Sandler, like, this film proved that, like, he can act. Chops.
He has chops.
Like, because, like, you think of Adam Sandler and you're like, oh, it's the happy-go-lucky...
An Adam Sandler movie, you know what that is.
I'm Adam Sandler, and welcome back to Saturday Night Live. Like,
my ex-girlfriend's so hot in this movie. We'll get back together.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Like, that's what you think of him as, but like, this man can act like no other if he needs to.
Yeah,
he just never had a role like this, and I think they took a chance on him. Because you look at it on paper, you're like, Yeah, I don't think this is for Adam Sandler. I think we need to find someone else. They're like, no, we're gonna stick with him. I think he could do it. And it's like, it's a shot in the dark, I will say, but casting him was probably one of the best things they could have done for this film.
Honestly, it really was. Also, the thing I think is kind of funny is the incorporation of like real life people into it, and like not playing characters, just playing themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
Like Kevin Garnett and The Weeknd showing up in the movie as themselves. But like those just like little weird, interesting choices like that are really kind of
All right, my number three
of the year.
My number 3 film is Us by Jordan Peele. Just cause, like, I've been going back and forth between if I like Get Out better or Us better, but they're so different in what they set out to do. And like, it's one of those films that I started the year out with like, wow, that was great, and I've actually liked more as the year's gone on. I think a lot of films I've liked less as the year's gone on, but that's a film that I think I like more and more as the year's gone on, and I've noticed different things of nuance and different things with it. So, Us is my number 3.
I think that's a pretty good choice. Alright, so I guess that's number 2 now?
Number 2.
My number 2 is The Irishman. I think it's probably in some of my absolute favorite of Scorsese's films, honestly. It's, like, really high up there. Just because of... It feels like a capstone almost to, like, his whole career up to this point, where it's been nothing but, like, amazing kind of discussion films on, like, the mob, but also, like, kind of slightly religious-based films. Whereas this seems to, like, be, like, the perfect blend, more so, like, in the last half of the film that kind of deals more with, like, the self-reflection and that sort of thing on, like, the time and more or less the hindsight of living that life. And all the performances are freaking fantastic. There's some lines from, like, Al Pacino that I think are going to become, like, memes later on, and I absolutely love it. Because he's so good in that movie, but he's also, like, really funny as well. And just... overall, like, amazing film, and really is absolutely worth your 3.5 hours if you can catch it, because it's great. But yeah, that's my number 2.
My number 2 right now is Joker. So I can see why it landed lower. I could see it landing lower at the same time, but I think for me, I think the film was intensified because I saw it at 9 p.m. So my drive home, I literally shut off the radio, I shut off the AC, and I just literally trapped myself in car with silence because I couldn't do anything else. Like, when I left that, I felt so uncomfortable in such a, like, a good way.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just... Yes, it has some problems. It feels slow, and I'll say that every time with these films. Like, to me, is there a film on this that is on my list that's perfect in every way? No. But you have to look past those in a way, and it just... It's a very subjective film, where I feel like there's perspectives on every end of the spectrum. This film was god-awful. This film was the best film of the decade, and then everything in between.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of really interesting, like, spoiler conversations about the film and series and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and just to see other people's perspectives.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely, like, I think the best thing that this film has done is, like, the amount of conversation it had about mental health, and even just, like, the concepts of its story and, like, the little bits here and there. It's been, like, analyzed by everyone now.
It mainstreamed a lot of indie concepts, I feel.
Yeah, I'd say so, too, because, like, it definitely in some sort of, like, pacing and stylistic choices, too.
Like, it's definitely one of the most impactful films of the year, and for that alone, it gets a lot of respect from me from that, because it took a lot of chances that I don't think a lot of films would take.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I'm going to be honest. My number 2 film is a film that was my number 1 for a while. And then I saw a movie the first of the year, so I was like, oh fuck, that changes everything. And Luke, I'm really curious to see what your number 1 is. But my number 2 is Honey Boy. Because I just love that film. It is my favorite Shia performance, which is insane.
Yeah.
Because there are moments when I was watching it and I had to go, "Whoa, that was Shia! Oh my god!"
Yeah, you just had like a mental realization, like that is Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
Oh my
Whereas
god.
like Peanut Butter Falcon, I was always kind of aware, like, yeah, it's Shia. Whereas this movie, I was just so invested and drawn in, and just like the building of the tension throughout the film.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the lines, is probably beginning of the third act, just hits so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think my only complaint with it is I think the third act overall, the film builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, and then the third act is like, and it all ends happily ever after.
Yeah.
Alright, there it goes. Well, what happened? What between blank and blank? What happened? What? I would have sat down for another 30 minutes of that film.
Yeah, like that was one issue that I had with the film, was just the way that it ends. Everything else is like amazing.
And the performances.
No one has really talked about Noah Jupe in this movie, and that's
He
a crime.
was incredible.
He is like fucking amazing in that movie. Like,
favorite child actor of the year.
yeah, like no question about that, honestly. It really is like the best child actor performance of the year.
Yeah, that movie was just insane.
Yeah.
But it's my number two film of the year.
Awesome.
Your number one film, not technically of the year.
Yeah, not technically of the year. One thing I'm gonna do not honorable mentions again.
It was what was your actual number one film?
It was The Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse,
yeah, that was my actual number one.
But for the purpose of this,
yeah. So a couple of honorable mentions. Honey Boy is one of them. There's also Glass, which not everyone is a big fan of, but I just found something really satisfying about it. Have Toy Story 4, Jojo Rabbit, Us, Hustlers. There's a movie called The Report with Adam Driver. It was sort of like about the... essentially, it was a film about the report against the use of torture in Afghanistan war, and sort of like the investigation of
With
that.
Adam Driver?
Adam Driver, yeah. I saw it back at Sundance, and I don't know if it's out yet.
Interesting.
Ad Astra and Rocket Man. Those are my honorable mentions. My number one pick, that isn't really my number one pick, but is for the sake of this list, is Marriage Story, is my number one pick. It's very rarely, like, you have, like, films that are like, oh, they're personally impactful to some extent. This one was, like, getting hit by a truck in terms of, like, personal impact. All the performances are just, like, some of the absolute best of the year. Like, it's just, not even just Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, but, like, some of the other supporting actors are great. But they are just both amazing, and there's one scene that's kind of now been talked to death, like, by everyone. That's one of the most hard-hitting scenes of the whole year, I'd say. And it's just a brilliantly directed and acted film. And yeah, like, most of it is just in a biased kind of sense because of just how impactful it was for me when I first watched it. But it's just something I'd recommend everyone see. It's freaking amazing.
My number one film of the year is Us.
Yep, figured.
Okay, this film, the second I saw it, it was at my number one spot, and I have literally been waiting for something to dethrone it for me. And nothing has done it. Nothing has left me with so many conflicting emotions than Us. There was just so much that I loved about this film. I don't know. Like, it made me uncomfortable in a way that I haven't been felt uncomfortable. Like, the message behind it, like, just the performances.
Yep.
If there's not some kind of nominations, I will go riot. I think I need to riot.
The post-Oscars nominations riot of 2020.
By me.
By
Led by me.
Just the one person.
Exclusively by...
I don't know. I could literally talk about this film for hours, and to me, watching it again wouldn't be the same, because it's such a different film now that I know. It's like a one-time watch film, and then you watch it a second time, and I feel like it's a different film. Which, from that aspect, I would almost want to do it, but I don't want to ruin the feeling that it leaves me when I think about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those films that I don't know why I haven't done it yet, but I want to pick it up on DVD just to have it sitting on my shelf.
Yeah.
Not that I'll probably ever watch it again. Maybe down the road, but right as it stands, I won't watch it again because I feel like it's gonna ruin it for me. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
But I felt like I've been waiting for it to be dethroned all year, and it just hasn't done it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
So, a little bit of backstory. For the longest time in 2019, I had been waiting for this movie. Because, like, La La Land, when that came out, hit me in such a personal level that, like, nothing could compete with it. Baby Driver the following year. I loved Baby Driver. 2018 was, I didn't have a film. Oh, no, Spider-Verse was that film.
Yeah, Spider-Verse.
That was like, this is the film. And for the longest time, I was like, we've had some great movies, but nothing that has really, like, hit me at my core.
Yeah.
And then I saw Honey Boy, and I was like, I guess that's it. It's been a while since I've had that kind of feeling, so that's got to be the feeling.
Probably, yeah.
But then I saw this movie, and I was like, that's it. That's that. Whoa. And it did something to me that messed me up, and I'll get to in a sec, that I think is the reason why it hit me so personally. But I saw it the first of 2019 film, and then I literally watched it again that same day.
Oh, dang.
And that movie, it's Marriage Story.
God damn it, I was like, I had a vibe. I had a vibe that it was probably Marriage Story, and I was like, you didn't mention anything in me discussing it, so it's like, probably something else. But I was like, god damn it.
Where do I begin?
Where do you begin? Oh my god.
So the thing that stuck out to me most, actually, before I get to that, I think the reason it hit me so hard is the movie starts with essentially the first 5 minutes is in a way that in any other movie would be like, oh, that's cheating. Kind of this almost narration-y thing of like, here's what this character's all about, okay? Now here's what this character's all about. Now let's play in the world type of thing. But it fucked me up so bad because I was watching it and I was like, oh, so I'm Adam Driver's character. Cool. Like, to a T.
I was going to say something about that, yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. I'm in. Then I saw the one for Scarlett Johansson's character, Nicole, and I was like, oh shit. I knew someone who's not identical to that character, but a lot like that character.
Yeah.
So when the movie happened, fuck, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That hurt me to my core. Because it was like me watching an alternate reality where me and that other person got married and then got divorced.
The reason...
And like,
a roller coaster of emotions.
I like that you mentioned that because the reason that this film was so impactful for me is because it basically felt like seeing kind of like my parents when I was younger, but from their perspective rather than like my own, like knowing now what it's like. And it's just like, Jesus Christ. It's like... It really is like one of the few films that I saw this year where it wasn't just like, oh, that was emotionally impactful. That felt like the thematic gut stab.
I felt like I was dying every 5 minutes. Watching the best performances of the year while dying.
Yeah, that's literally how it feels. I think...
Holy cow.
There's like, there's the argument scene, but I think like the scene...
There's so many other scenes that are just...
I'll just say the scene with the knife. That scene was like the other part that just kind of like... I felt like, excuse me, I'm going to crawl up into a ball and die.
So this film has like 9 Golden Globe nominations.
As it should.
It really should.
Holy cow.
It's going back to my connection to Adam Driver's character. It made me realize I had flaws as I was watching. Like, oh, so that's his character flaw. Oh, I have that character's flaw. Oh my god, I learned more about myself watching it.
My question is why do you think it flopped at the box office?
It's a Netflix film. It didn't get a wide release, so it's still getting money. It's just not from box office.
Which I literally, I think we had a conversation about Marriage Story. I was like, oh, I haven't heard about that, and I wrote it down. And then I checked Netflix the first of the year. I was like, oh, it's on Netflix. I'll watch it. Watch it like 9 a.m. in the morning right as I woke up.
Oh, so it's on Netflix then?
Yep. And then I literally couldn't stop watching it or stop thinking about it. So I watched it again at like 3 p.m.
I literally wish I was in your position where like you didn't have any preconceived notions about it going forward. Not anything at all. Just watched it for the sake of, oh, people said it was good. And I love the way that you were saying, like, it makes me think about, like, my own personal flaws. Because, like, I watched this, and it made me want to call my dad for the first time in, like, a while. And it's, like, when a film does something kind of like that, where it hits you on a personal level that makes you rethink about elements of your own life, it's just, like, Jesus, that's the kind of film that's important, I'd say.
This is one of those movies that has worked its way into my catalog of I have to watch it, like, once a year.
Yeah, exactly. That's the same for me. And, like, The Lighthouse is something that I love for, like, the craftsmanship and the filmmaking and all the new stuff. But this is on the same level for me, but just on the personal level, I'd say.
Yeah.
It really is, like, that impactful.
But now to talk about it from a less subjective level,
Yeah.
I thought the editing was so incredible and unique.
It really was, honestly. Yeah. Like, just some of the choices I think are really interesting.
Okay. Can I ask something really quick?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm obviously under the wrong interpretation, but I thought, like... I mean, I guess obviously it got released at somewhere, but I thought, didn't Golden Globe nominations have to be, like, wide release?
Sundance. I know. I don't know if it
Oh,
got
and
a real wide.
It
got released in Italy.
It did get a U.S. release. It's just, like, in a couple of theaters, like 5.
So that it could qualify.
Yeah, that's why,
So
like...
because it made $2.3 million in box office. So
Yeah.
since it released in, like, at least one United States theater, it counts as, like, being
Something
eligible.
I don't know what the exact qualifications are.
It's, like, at least for, I think, 4 weeks, and it did 4 weeks exactly.
So it has to at least, like, show up in one theater for at least 4 weeks to count it, be eligible for,
For the Oscars, essentially, and the awards and categories. Yeah, that's the thing. That was kind of like with, Roma was one of the films from last year that had to do that, too.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And they had to kind of, like, find a way to get it to work, because it's, like, it's technically an online film, so I don't know how that works.
Yeah, but, like, so I thought the editing was so unique. And, like, the way of... Oh, man, there are a couple scenes that got me. One is moments when it almost feels like it's narration, but then you learn who the character's talking to, and then that changes your perspective on the past statement.
Exactly, yeah. Like, especially in that first opening bit.
Yeah.
Is a good example.
And then there's a moment, I don't want to spoil the plot or anything,
No, I
where
watch.
one character sees something the other person in the relationship does, gets up, and it quick cuts character, then subway. And, like, the cutting in that sequence, like, I was like, oh, that's the ultimate show don't tell.
Exactly, yeah.
Because there was no dialogue. The characters didn't even really do anything. It was, you knew exactly who that third person was, the relationship to the couple, what must have transpired through the editing.
Yeah, like, it just, the simple, like, rhythm and what is shown to you, how long is shown to you, and just the implications is, like, all there. And
yes, it is confirmed later in the film, but you know exactly what it is when it happens in the edit.
Exactly.
And the camera, in so many moments, the blocking, the characters just move around. It's just one shot that kind of follows the character. And you just, it's letting it be like, yeah, so this one scene is going to be basically this shot, maybe a reverse shot here or there, but basically this one shot. Character talking to the other person, gets up, walks out of the room. Still that same shot while they're in another room. They come back and then they sit back down.
Yeah.
It made me feel like I was there.
Yeah, like you're in the middle of this conversation and whatever was going on in there.
Yeah, and like the relationship in the writing, like a fucking dagger.
It really is.
Of the like, it's not even like a character arc. I guess it is based on the ending. But it's such like a, like, you feeling so bad.
Yeah.
About how things are transpiring and there's, like, where you understand where each character's headspace is at.
Yeah, like, it never feels like, oh, this person's just being unreasonable. It's like both of them are being unreasonable but being realistic also at the same time.
And it has a conflict where I was watching it and I was like, there's no right way this can end.
Exactly, yeah, like, it's no bias towards any other person in the story.
And even, when I watched the second time, there are so many little nuances that I picked up on. Because at first I was like, okay, I feel like though that was more told from this perspective. And then I rewatched and I was like, oh no, they're both fucked up.
Yeah, like, they both have their own issues going on at that point.
Like, in, like, little nuanced ways. Like, each have a character flaw I noticed. that on a second watch picked up so much more. Like, one of the characters is fairly selfish and kind of controlling.
Mm-hmm.
And when I watched it a second time, there are little keys to that in the beginning that, like, oh no, you didn't ask her that question. You said that as a statement. Oh, that foreshadows everything following it.
Yeah, like, you realize the implications of, like, the way that line is delivered or the way that little bit is written.
And, like, another character I was watching from the beginning, and I was like, you're playing the child to your favor in a way that's manipulative to him that he doesn't realize because he's a fucking child.
That part was the one that hit the worst because it's like they knew what that was really like. It's just like, oh god.
And it's like, I didn't even catch how manipulative it was until the second time when it's like, he only does that around you because you let him do that, which is why, oh my god.
Yeah, like it's like the revelations are just realizing what characters play in the relationship, like what they play in the relationship.
But I've gone on about this movie for so long, but I love it. To where
have to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the movie that I've been waiting all 2019 for, and I didn't even see it in 2019. I saw it the first day of 2020.
What timing, honestly?
But it was the movie that I needed it to be, and didn't expect it to be.
That's the best part, is you didn't even know what it would be like going in, and then you found your favorite of the year.
Yeah.
And I'd say I had an idea of what it would be like, but I didn't know it was going to be that extreme and that nuanced.
So Marriage Story is my favorite movie of 2019.
And same here. It's basically like mutually tied with that and The Lighthouse, I'd say, as my favorite.
So, on to most anticipated movies of 2020. Luke, what you got?
Let me get it up again. Sorry, I had it.
I have one honorable mention, but I'll just briefly touch on it.
Oh, yeah, you can still do that, actually. I'm just going to look up the list.
Yeah, throw that in right now while I was looking it up.
So, an honorable mention, just because I'm hopeful, I'm trying to stay hopeful, would be Sonic. The redesign, I'm happy with it. I'm still under the impression that this was a marketing scheme, but it's a really ballsy marketing scheme. If it is one, it's a really ballsy one, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
I'm literally going in with zero expectations, though.
Yeah. I guess I have kind of an honorable mentions, I guess, if you want me to briefly touch on it.
Quickly rattle them off.
It's just one. It's the French Dispatch, which is a new Wes Anderson film.
Oh.
And if I'm remembering this correctly, it's supposed to be a musical.
A Wes Anderson musical sounds incredible.
Yeah, I know, right? It's gonna be like a period piece sort of thing, but like it has a couple of pretty famous people in it. Let me just make sure. Tilda Swinton, Bill Murray's in it, Benicio del Toro, Saoirse Ronan, Adrian Brody, Owen Wilson, Willem Dafoe. Holy fuck! I didn't know Willem Dafoe was in there.
You just alerted me of something that I'm now very excited for.
I'm glad I did. I think it is still a musical. I don't know if that has changed, but I'm still very excited for it. It is something I'm going to keep my eye out, but that's my honorable mention for now. But my actual number 5 is Dune, directed by Denis Villeneuve. The reason it's at number 5 and not higher is just because, like, Dune is a fucking, like, weird thing to try to adapt to just, like, any sort of, like, film or TV show length, because it's like filled with weird terminology for like the world it inhabits, and it's like super long and dense and lore heavy. So like trying to make like just a singular film out of it for now is kind of like almost a long shot, almost kind of blatant suicide, like career suicide, I'd say. But he was able to make 2049 work, so I'm kind of like, if it's gonna be anyone, it's gonna be him.
That's fair.
So if it doesn't work, then it's just like
it was never meant to work.
Yeah, like David Lynch's adaptation, I could totally get why that didn't work, because that was not the right director.
He's David Lynch.
It's David Lynch. Like, Dune is weird, but not that version of weird. Denis Villeneuve could make it the right kind of weird and make it work as a cohesive story. But, like, I'm excited for it because I love science fiction stories. Really love a lot of the actors he's gotten it. The joke for a while was there's so many, like, great actors that are getting cast in it. Everyone's like, oh my god, this random person got cast in Dune. But the cast is, like, incredible, and I'm just really excited for it, because if nothing else visually, it'll be amazing. That's the thing I'm the most excited for, is the visuals and VFX and all that sort of thing. Alright, and that's all I have to say about that.
So I will say that didn't make my list, but because mainly from the fact that it's just really abstract and it's really out there, but it does look really interesting. I wanted to note that. But my number 5 film is Free Guy.
Yeah.
Okay, Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds, basically in an IRL GTA, just looks like the funniest thing.
When you were talking about Detective Pikachu, I was thinking of this movie, and I was like, it would be cool if that dethroned Pikachu as the newest great video game movie.
Like, you literally can't have any expectations for this film, and parts of me wants it to be like. I think it's going to be one of those films that's probably so bad that it's funny.
Yeah, I'm going in expecting it to just be fun.
No, like literally a fun comedy. That's all I want from it.
If I can go in and just be smiling or laughing for the whole time, it did its job.
Yeah, that's what it's for, and that's why I'm anticipating it, because I think it is going to do its job. I really do. I have hope. Number 5.
So,
or an honorable mention.
What I'll kind of say, I don't really have any specific honorable mention, but I do want to say there's a lot of like indie-esque or even not indie films that aren't maybe franchise holders that I'm really excited for, but because all I've seen is like a trailer for them, I don't really know what to expect, whereas a lot of the other films on my list I do have more in terms of expectations. So there are a lot of films that I'm sure are going to be in my top 10 list that I'm aware of now, but aren't on my anticipated list because I just don't know enough about them right now.
Yeah.
And the other thing is we'll probably just on this anticipated kind of pick up the pace a little bit, but my number 5 is the Eternals because I'm very hopeful that Marvel can kind of recreate the lightning in a bottle that Guardians was, of like something that's connected but also disconnected from the greater MCU that can also set up some of their bigger concepts for hopefully the next couple phases of movies.
Yeah.
And plus the cast seems really cool. Fucking Camille Nanjiani's workout routine.
Yeah. And also a really interesting choice of director too.
Yeah. So that's why that's my number 5 on the list.
Cool. Alright. So my number 4 is Last Night in Soho, which is the new Edgar Wright film, which is a horror film also. That's pretty much all I know about it at the moment. But, like, it's an Edgar Wright horror film, like, you know,
You had me at Edgar Wright.
Exactly. Like, Edgar Wright's films are something to always, like, go out to see, and it's always going to be, like, something interesting. And I'd be interested to see, like, what it is kind of like, because I've heard some of his influences for the film, and a lot of them are, like, very interesting and distinct. And I'm wondering if he'll still keep some of the comedy elements there, or if it's just going to be, like, straight up a horror film. So, more
curiosity than
yeah, more curiosity to see, like, what kind of tone it's going to be going for, but otherwise I'm excited for it, and I also love the cinematographer they got on it. The guy who shot the first It, not second It.
Thank God.
Yeah, exactly. That's my thoughts, exactly. And I'm just really excited to see how that goes.
My number 4 is Wonder Woman, 1984. Just because I'm just curious. I really enjoyed Wonder Woman, and I'm just curious to see where this film, the direction it takes. Really, that's it's anticipated because I'm curious.
Gotcha.
That's understandable. Yeah.
So my number 4 is actually a movie I didn't know of until very recently. I think it was when I went to go see. Oh, what did I see when I saw a trailer for? It was like Honey Boy or something like that. That's. I don't know what it was that I saw when I saw this trailer, but that doesn't matter. It's a film called In the Heights.
Which
is a musical. And I don't know, I just was seeing the trailer and I was like, oh, I am on board with this.
I think I know what movie you saw before. I think it was Cats.
It was Cats, that's what it was, yes.
Because I saw that too.
Gotcha.
I saw that trailer too.
And it's directed by John M. Choon, who's the person who did Crazy Rich Asians, which him doing a musical seems really interesting.
Yeah, honestly.
By a lot of the same people who did the musical Hamlet.
Yeah,
and it was actually a stage musical before this movie. That's what it's based on. But I dig the premise. The music sounds great. The choreography looks awesome, and I like how they're capturing that visually.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't know of it until I saw Cats, and now I'm actually very excited. It's one of the films that's definitely on my watch list.
Yeah, definitely.
Gotcha.
Alright, so my number 3 is Tenet, the new Christopher Nolan film. I was excited for it just because, like, new Christopher Nolan film is something to be excited for. And I heard John David Washington's, and it's like, alright, let's see where this goes. And I saw the trailer for it, which didn't really have much of a story besides, this guy is organized in this new kind of organization to stop something of some kind. And the time manipulation thing, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck this is, but yes, I would like that, please.
Please, give me 2 sides.
And I think that's the only reason it's on my list, is because I don't know what's gonna happen in it, really.
It's not like with Dunkirk, where it's like, oh, it's a war film, it might be interesting presentation. I don't know what this is.
So, on the purpose of speeding stuff up, that is at my number 2. Just because we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I have no clue what it is.
But
Nolan.
It's interesting and Nolan, so.
It's new Christopher Nolan film. It's something to be excited for, and that's why I'm excited for it as well, just for the vagueness of it at the moment.
So, my number 3 is Black Widow for the sole purpose of it kicks off Phase 4, basically. And I'm just hoping that it can be good.
Yeah, it's also about damn time she got a standalone film.
Movie.
Yeah, exactly.
So, we'll see.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
So, my number 3 is Venom 2, because Andy Serkis directing it, some of the little things I've heard about the behind the scenes sound so intriguing to me. And, like, Andy Serkis is the master of CGI characters. So him doing a film that's mainly on the backs of a CGI character, that's a big comic book character, yes. And for what Venom was, it was enjoyable enough for, even if it wasn't Andy Serkis, I'd be like, yeah, I would definitely see the second one. But the fact that it is Andy Serkis, I'm like, there we go. There's my money. Here we go.
Take it now. Yep. Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to see how that goes too, because I enjoyed Venom more on an ironic level, but I'd be interested to see like what elements that they use of Venom for the sequel, and see if it's like the same or if it's like knows the cheesiness of it and goes along with it.
I could see Andy Serkis going either way.
Yeah, whatever it could be. I'm interested to say the least. Yeah. Well, my number 2 is a bit interesting because it's like it has been confirmed for a release date in December of 2020. It doesn't have a title yet. It's just called Untitled Charlie Kaufman film, and Charlie Kaufman is a screenwriter that's done a lot of films that I've really loved, like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, being John Malkovich. So many great films. Who's also been directing a couple of films now too, like Synecdoche, New York, and Anomalisa. And this is something I'm really interested in because like he hasn't made a whole lot of films, and his catalog so far is just like fantastic, like interesting, sort of cerebral but emotional films. So like, just something that's even just hearing Untitled Charlie Kaufman films, like, I'll give you my money. I don't know what the fuck it is, but I'll give you my money. And yeah, like if I'm able to like invest my emotional time into that just based on the fact that it exists, it's like kind of the reason why it's at number 2 is because I'm that excited for it.
Yeah,
I already said
you already
said
your number 2.
So your number 2.
My number 2 is A Quiet Place Part 2.
Yeah.
Which Dylan and I have talked about it quite a fair amount, but I'm just really excited to see more of that world and John Krasinski being solely behind the camera,
not on the
director's chair.
Yeah.
I just want to see what he does with it, really.
Yeah. That'd be interesting to see how that goes, because I wasn't a big fan of the first one, but I'm interested to see how it continues on from there. Alright, so my first one is sort of a niche one. Like, it's the kind of film that it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, I'm almost certain of, but like there's been festival runs of it so far. There's a film called, this might sound funny for people who've seen First Man, it's called First Cow, essentially. It's like, no, it is not about the first cow that goes to the moon. It is essentially, from what I've been told, it's almost like a very soft-spoken kind of Western film about 2 guys who are living sort of on the fringes of society, trying to make a living by making food that they steal from like the local farm owner's cow by trying to like make their own way to survive. The real reason I'm really excited for it is my current favorite director, Kelly Reichardt, is the person who's directing it, and just hearing that alone is something that interests me. But like, apparently the themes that this kind of film tackles is very reminiscent of a lot of her first few films that I've really, really loved, like Old Joy and that sort of thing. Again, it's very niche, so I don't know like if it's going to be something that everyone will see when it comes out. In fact, it'll probably only be in a couple theaters. But it's something that I've just, the minute I heard about it, I was like, I'm wanting to see that, and I'm jealous of the people who are seeing it in festival circuit right now.
My number 1 is A Quiet Place Part 2.
Oh, dang.
I don't know. I'm like you said. The fact is like, we could talk about spoilers, right? Is it about the first one?
Yeah. I was guessing.
I would hope so. But like, the fact is the fact that he's the mastermind behind the writing, and he killed his own character off. I'm just really curious. He obviously has had a plan from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Because the trailer shows that he knew what he wanted to do when he killed himself off. So, to me, he had a plan. And for me, the first film shows that he'll be able to execute on his plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think, like, ultimately, I don't think that this, like, world that he has going on in this film is for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for the people who are engaged in it and want to see more, I think he will satisfy those people in particular.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
So, my number 1 is technically a 2019 film, distribution, yada, 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 is making a 2020 film, and that's 1917.
Yep. Because distributors are bad.
So,
yes, it does look
a war story. DP Roger Deakins.
Roger the Deke.
That is made to look like a oneer.
When does it come out?
January 10th.
It's this month.
January 10th?
But that's just insane to me.
That
and
is.
a premise that alone, but without even seeing the trailer, is awesome. But
yeah.
then you see the trailer.
Then you see the
and
trailer.
You see the one shot's not just a stick. It's actually just building on that intensity. Like, I am excited.
Yeah, like it was one of those things like you could see it as like a novelty, but it seems like it actually works for what the film is trying to be.
Yeah, and like I heard behind the scenes things of like, yeah, we're just waiting on set because the entire film we had to have clouds over the sun for, so we would just be sitting around and then a cloud would come like, quickly, shoot it, and then like the sun would go away. It's like, all right, now let's keep waiting. It's like that's insane
the
to me.
Yeah, I have to do that.
That is like detailed integrity to like an incredible degree.
But it's also so Deakins.
It is so fucking Roger Deakins. Like, it's so funny the way that I love listening to interviews with him because he's so modest all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And like he talked about Blade Runner, it's like, oh, it was such a blessing to work on it. And with this one, it's like, oh yeah, it's like nothing much, I guess. Like he's so modest about like what he's talking about, but he doesn't mean it in like oh, I could do that. He's like, yeah, we did. It was all cool. You know, nothing about that. And just like. It's he really is kind of like more or less like the pinnacle of like what a cinematographer wants to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but anyway, that has been this podcast.
Damn.
3 hours just on the movies alone. That's insanity.
We are 22 minutes shy of being as long as The Irishman.
But thank you guys so much for watching. If you've made it this far in a VOD. But, yeah, tell us your thoughts below on movies from 2019, your anticipated 2020, down in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And please like for a comment and subscribe. Share this video with all your friends. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Stay classy. Any last notes?
No.
Happy New Year.
Yep. Here's to 2020.
Hopefully.
Right. Take care, everybody.